Hello, everybody. I am coming to you live from Georgia. Really excited about part two. A lot of you guys have been reaching out to me and asking me to do a part two. I even saw a comment where somebody was asking me to talk about family, talk about friendships and family and stuff like that. So today we're going to do demonic relationships part two. I want to help you to understand how the enemy can formulate relationships, or he will try to formulate relationships using the demonic. And immediately a thought pops up in my head. I'm going to let you guys come in. Do me a favor as you're coming in. Make sure that you like and share. Let me give a couple of shout outs while we're at it. Sister Casey Do, how are you? Birdie, how are you? Sister Keela, how are you? Sister Michelle, how are you? I love me some you guys. I love y'all. I pray that you guys have had an amazing day. Let me go ahead and mention this. Esther Prep University, we are having our graduation on Saturday. More than likely, we will stream the graduation live. If you want to be a part of Esther Prep University, or if you want to jump to part two, Esther Prep University 2.0, which is a higher level of mentorship, you can now register on tiffanybuckner.com. Click on mentorship and you'll see 1.0 and 1.2. What's the difference between 1.0 and 1.2? 1.0 is a lighter level. Now, understand this. I'm going to come and do an entire live video sometime this week where I want to talk about the differences between the two, because I don't want people registering with the wrong mindset or the wrong expectation, because that sets the stage for offense if you come in with unrealistic expectations. If you come in thinking that I'm gonna be on the phone with you every day talking about Tyrone, that's an unrealistic expectation. If you come in thinking that every time you have an emotional breakdown, every time you're frustrated, that you're gonna have me to just call up on the phone, then that's an unrealistic expectation. So I do want to make sure you guys understand the difference between mentorship and coaching, or what have you. So I want to make sure that when you start to register for 1.0 or 2.0, 2.0, I would say if you believe that you're called to ministry, to launch a business, to do anything great. 2.0 is a higher level of mentorship. If you are easily offended, 2.0 is not for you. 2.0 is, I really opened it up for the people who passed that are graduating for 1.0, but I decided to open it to the public for people who, because a lot of times people do come into 1.0 and they're like, hey, listen, even the ones that are graduating and going to 2.0, that's their thing. Like, hey, I want a greater push. I really want that accountability. I want that. I want that. And so that's what 2.0 is going to be about. But again, I want to make sure that I go live and I answer your questions. So do me a favor. If you are even remotely interested in it, please make sure that you tune in to that live. I don't have a date for it yet, but tune in to that live because I want to answer all of your questions to help you to make a decision as to whether or not you want to come into Esther Prep, or do you want to go into 1.0 or 2.0 or what have you? Because I am a fan of building lifelong relationships, but I don't like it when people come in and they have these unrealistic expectations. Typically, it's the ones that are the most distant. They don't involve themselves, they don't engage, but then they get offended because they feel like, well, everybody else is engaging and nobody's, they have their own little bubble that they expect you to come out and come into. But that's that. I wanted to come out and honor what I said I was gonna do. Like I said, so many people have come out and asked me for come out and asked me to do part two to the demonic relationships teaching. Today I'm gonna deal with familial relationships. Today I'm gonna deal with platonic relationships, and we're even gonna touch on the topic of romantic relationships, because at the end of the day, you can never get enough of romantic relationships, right? Never enough. Revelation about romantic relationships. I happen to be on TikTok. I wish there were more people on here right now, because before I pull up that TikTok video, I want to make sure that there are about 100 people on here. So do me a favor, like and share. Right now we have 36. So I'm just going to talk, and whenever we get up to 100, I will share that TikTok video. But I pulled up a TikTok video today, and I don't even remember what the video was, but I think it had something to do with relation. Oh, it was a guy, but it was something that he said, and I want to make sure that I play it for you guys and give you a little bit of revelation. So we're going to probably launch off into talking about romantic, and then we'll move over into platonic or familial or what have you. Now, if you're not aware of it, there are three types of love. There are three types of love. Well, no, four. There is Philia, which is the love of a friend. Storge, the love of family. Agape, God's kind of love, unconditional love. And then there is eros, which is romantic love. Every last one of these loves, the enemy seeks to pervert. Of course, the enemy he cannot pervert God's love towards you, but he can pervert your perception of God. Typically, he can do that through your relationship with your father or a misunderstanding of God. Like I just talked about people coming into Esther Prep University. They do this in every church. Anything that's established, you will have people that come in with unrealistic expectations. And typically that happens with God. Like people come into Christianity or people begin to declare their abstinence or do certain things because of unrealistic expectations. So they have a transactional mindset. They feel like, okay, God, if I give you my time, if I give you my effort, if I close my legs, then you have to give me something in return. When the Bible said that's your reasonable service, meaning that's the least you can do. Like that's required. That like you don't get anything with that except for a sane mind. So there's no reward. I mean, I've been abstinent, and I like to say it because I like to encourage people. But I've been abstinent for 7 years. There is no cookie that I get for being abstinent for 7 years. There is no there's the thing that I have is that I have peace of mind. What I have is that I'm not struggling with a demon of lust. What I have is that I'm not losing, I'm not soul tied to anybody. I'm not checking anybody's profile. I'm not sitting up here trying to figure out did such and such get it back yet. I have peace of mind. So the word of God, everything that God gave us to do is designed to not only protect us, our eternal beings, but to protect us while we're on the earth. Because the enemy seeks to get your mind. Remember, we talked about that on the last live. The enemy is after your mind. The enemy wants to get into your head. And just let me give you a picture of that. We talked about the three levels of the mind. The three levels of the mind. And I want to help you to understand how the enemy or what the enemy is looking at when he's looking at you. Because he's not looking at how cute you are. Now he is interested in if you're really pretty. Because the enemy knows that, hey, I can use your beauty. That's a whole other message. I can use it. If you are relatively attractive, if you got nice hips and a nice butt, if you got pretty lips and what have you, I can use that. If you got beautiful eyes, I can use that. And so the enemy is always seeking to utilize you. But it's not that he loves you or likes you. You are an object to him. You're nothing but bait on a hook. That's it. There's no love there, bait on a hook. So I want to show you again, and we've talked about this before, but I want to show you how the mind is set up so that you get an understanding of what it is that the enemy is looking to do. Do me a favor, like and share. If you're just coming on, like and share as I am putting this together. Give me a second. Okay, as I'm putting this together, I want to show you hey, hello, brother Andre. Thank you. God bless you for the seed. Okay, these are the three levels of the mind. These are the three levels of the soul, not the mind. Three levels of the soul. The soul is comprised of the mind, will, and emotions. These are the three levels of the soul. So you have your conscious, you have your subconscious, and you have your unconscious. You have your conscious mind. This is what I'm engaging with right now. You can see me, you can hear me. I'm engaging with your conscious mind right now. So I am what's on the forefront of your mind. I am sitting there. And so this is what's engaging you right now. Subconscious is what's going to probably be in the back of your mind. These are the things you've stored in your heart. The subconscious is where you find the heart. This is the mind of the soul. This is the mind. This is where you find the heart. And this is what God says to guard. Now, I always refer to the conscious as the waiting room of the subconscious or the waiting room of the soul. So information comes into this block right here. Information comes into this block right here. And the goal of that information is to be approved. How do you approve information? Through belief. If I believe it, then it comes in. Now, there are different ways that I could approve something to go into my subconscious. I could approve it through agreement, and that's what the highest form. I can approve it through agreement, or I can become lackadaisical and just leave it sitting in there until it becomes familiar. And then now it just goes to the back by default, meaning I don't address it. So if somebody comes out and says to me, Tiffany, I think such and such, did this, or I think such and such, and I never really address it, if I never really take the time out, but I leave that at the forefront of my mind, if I leave that in the conscious room, then eventually I'm going to go into the agreement by default, which means I'll say, well, I heard this, but I don't necessarily know if that's true. Immediately, I start thinking about situations where I have gone into agreement by default, with things said about, family members of mine and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I really don't know, but hey, it ain't beyond them. It ain't beyond them. And so, even though I didn't come into agreement, then after it sits in there after a while, you go into agreement by default. And so another way that it gets into the belief system is through trauma. That's another form. So the enemy is going to try to get information, because everything, all forms of information go right into here. It's stored up. This right here is backed up with information. It's backed up with information. Typically, you deal with confusion when you have a lot of decisions that have not been made. This you have a whole lot of decisions. They're still sitting right here. When you have a lot of decisions, like if you skip from one project to the next, you never finish anything, then you're going to have a discombobulated mind. Your mind is going to be kind of filled with information. So consequently, you will deal with confusion and forgetfulness and stuff like that, because there's too much traffic in the waiting room. There's too much traffic in the waiting room. That's the reason why you got to be mindful. The Bible says, guard your heart. It's not just take the information in the waiting room and cast it down, but it also represents, don't put people around you that's putting false information in the waiting room. That's constantly, because every conversation that you have, even a conversation that you're having with me right now, this information is going to go right into here. Now, if it's something that confirms what you already believe, if it's something that you do the study and you find it in the Bible, then you believe it, and now goes from here to here. And this is where it can impact your life. I can give you information all day long. If you don't believe it, and if it's just stuff that goes into your conscious and you say, hey, that's interesting, then that information doesn't do much of anything for you. It's just sitting in a waiting room, waiting on its turn to be approved into a belief. But if you take that information and you say, well, that confirms what God said, or if you study and you say, well, and then you get the confirmation, then it goes into here. And your mind is what's going to cause the reflection of your life. So whatever you believe in, whatever it is that you have going on right here, all the things that have gotten past your conscious, they now sit in your subconscious. Once they sit into your subconscious, they begin to create your life. They create the scent that is your life. They create everything around you. They create I'm trying to find the right way to say it. They create a form of attraction. So like minds think, you're going to attract like-minded people to yourself. It's a magnetic thing. So it creates the attraction, the type of people that come into your life, the type of people that sit around you. It creates the attraction. That's why a lot of times when people are complaining about the type of people that they attract, they don't necessarily realize that there are. Thank you, Sister Quanisha. God bless you, sis. Quanisha, thank you, sis. I appreciate you. But they don't realize that what they're literally saying is that there's something wrong with me. Going back to the story of Cable Guy, that was the first thought that I had. It wasn't that, okay, these guys out here crazy. That wasn't the thought that I had, because that's deflecting. The first thought that I had was, what's wrong with me? Why does this happen? Like, what's wrong with me? So that was the first thought. Like I said, that happened back when I first moved into this house in 2016. And the first thought that I had was, let me find a deliverance minister, because I think this is a deliverance issue. There is something attached to me that's making people behave like that, and it's not good. And since then, when I talk to women who deal with issues like that, all out honesty, it is a deliverance issue. It can be part of the anointing, but it's a demon attracted to that part of the anointing. But at the end of the day, most of the times it's a deliverance issue. It's a spirit there that's creating a magnetic effect. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but that's what that is. So again, you have the conscious, you have the subconscious, and you have the unconscious mind. This is pretty much the spirit of a person. This represents the spirit. Once you get saved, you don't have to worry about anything with this, because this is the area that stores trauma. It's the area that stores all this stuff. This is pretty much like the spirit. This is like the body, soul, the spirit. This is off limits. You have no control over this. This is your safety center. It takes your high levels of trauma and it's stored right here. The enemy, because he can't get into here, because if he can get into here, he can possess you. He can't get into here on a believer. He can get into here on a non-believer, but he can't get into here on a believer. If he got into here, he can put you into full possession. Demon cannot possess a believer; they can oppress a believer. So what the enemy tries to do is, with a believer, he has to get here. When he gets here, he seeks to build a siege around this. Because he can't get in it, he wants to build a siege around it. That means to secure it with false information. He wants to fill you up so much with false information that you begin to behave like somebody who's demonized or somebody who's possessed. You begin to behave. So now you have erratic beliefs. You start doing it whenever it gets to that level of oppression. Most of the times when we start doing deliverance on you, the demon will start speaking out your mouth. There are high levels or different levels of demonic oppression. When it gets to that level, typically when I'm dealing with somebody who has high level demonic oppression, that the demon begins to speak out of their mouth during deliverance. The demon will start to talk. And a lot of times the demon will start using terms about legalities. The demon will start talking about legalities. I have a legal right to this person. You can't cast me out or what have you. But half of the time, most of the time, the demon is lying. But demons like to talk about legalities because sometimes there is a legality present that has to be dealt with, and that is dealt with through fasting and prayer. That is dealt with through fasting and prayer. So, again, I'm going to start off and I'm going to talk about romantic relationships because that's what we ended on. We're going to talk briefly about romantic relationships, and then I'm going to move into familial relationships, and then we'll move on into platonic relationships. And I'm believing God to do something. Now, we have over 100 people on here right now, so that means I can show you the TikTok video that I pulled up today. I was on TikTok. I got to this video and I closed TikTok. I said, nope. Whenever I go live, I want them to see this video with me. And TikTok videos are a minute long. They do allow them 3 minutes now, but yeah. Okay. The power of no contact on women. This is not for the weak-hearted. If you're a guy and you're afraid of losing your princess, do not try this. This is for guys who don't care what happened. Guys, when you apply no contact, what that means is you stop contacting the girl. What you do is you are giving her an ultimatum. You are making her submit. You are making her show her cards immediately. You are telling her, I am not going to take anything else from you. I am only going to accept you accepting my way. That's the power of no contact, guys. You're basically saying, I'm not having it anymore. Either you submit to me or I walk away. That's the power of no contact on women. Okay, so let's break that. All right. I was trying to see if I can find. Okay. What we have here is a man who's talking about how, if I can use different language, how to use a soul tie to control a woman. That's demonic. How to use a soul tie to control a woman. He said it out loud, but a lot of people actually employ that tactic. Now, believe it or not, men don't only do that, women do that. Women, whenever a woman does that, she will bring a man under her control. Whenever you're dealing with somebody on that level, right? It's witchcraft. When you're dealing with somebody who thinks like that, somebody who intentionally uses their soul tie against you, the relationship is 100% demonic. And I have to go out on a limb and say more than 50-60% of relationships that are prevalent or present today are demonic relationships. Because a lot of times when you're dealing with romantic relationships, the person or most people get into these relationships looking for love. They're looking for something because the way God created us, He is love. So we are in need. We are in desperate need of Him. When man fell, God removed Himself from mankind, but God continued to lead mankind. We know that we turned around, we got saved, but there's still voids because you have to invite God into every area of your soul. You have to invite God into every area. Now, when you get saved, He comes and He takes this because this is His seat. He comes and He takes this right here. He takes His seat. But you have to invite God into every area. I have to consciously keep my mind on Him, keep my mind stayed on Him. That means I need to study my word. I need to go to church. I need to go to Bible study. Guess what? My flesh ain't gonna want to do it. My flesh want to go do things that are fun. My flesh want to do things that are relaxing. My flesh don't want to go and have to die to itself. So I have to keep this right here. No matter what my flesh feels like, I have to study the Bible. No matter what my flesh says, I have to get into the word. I have to make myself present for God or what have you. I got to worship him. I got to spend time with him. And eventually over time, you begin to love it as you begin to love him. And then there is a subconscious, meaning I need to store his word in my heart. I need to store his word in my heart. Now, as I'm doing that, because he's already here, there, as the word begins to get in my spirit, then what it does is it becomes an automatic. One of the things I've often said, or I've often thought at minimum, is that when I'm old, God willing, I grow to be old. When I'm old, if anything ever happens with my mind, I would want to be one of those people that spoke the word repeatedly. I would want to be one of those people that even if I was out of my mind for, and I rebuke that even happening, but I would want to be one of those people that the word is so ingrained, not just in my soul, but in my spirit, that I begin to speak the word, that I continue to just say the word. They come up and if they come check on me, if I'm in a nursing home, and I rebuke that. But regardless, I would want that word to be so ingrained in me. But in order for that to happen, it has to go from here all the way to here. And I have to keep doing this. I got to keep doing this. I got to keep doing this. But what this guy again was talking about was a demonic relationship, how to use demonic soul ties. And I got a chance to see that even when I was in the world. I remember even having a conversation with, somebody I was married to, and I was like, I feel like you're using my love as a weapon. You're using it as a weapon. And that is really true. When you're dealing with the narcissist loves to use soul ties. They will get you in a soul tie. The Bible says, guard your heart, for out of it pours the issues of life. Remember, the heart is located right here. But once you let a person into this part of your soul, once a person gets there, it is hard to get them out of there. It is almost impossible to get them out. You can get them out, but you're going to have to really submit yourself to God. You got to die to who you've become, and you got to constantly pray. You may even have to fast, but it can be really difficult. As a matter of fact, there are beliefs that secure that person being there. There are beliefs. It's a fortification of sorts. So this guy that I let in my soul, now I have beliefs about us having children. I have beliefs about us. And so, you know what? I've invested in it. I've done all that. So once you put years and years into that, when the guy leaves, the beliefs are still there. When the guy leaves, the soul tie is still there. When the guy leaves, the investment is still gone. So it's hard to pull yourself out because now that siege wall, those beliefs have to be pulled down, which leaves you with nothing. It makes you have to start over, and it is something that is difficult for the average person. So here it is. This guy is saying, listen, get into a relationship with a woman, and if she don't do what you want her to do, go no contact with her. Go no contact. Put her on punishment. I've talked about that, and that's what he's talking about. Put her on punishment. Once you put her on punishment, it's gonna make her start panicking or what have you. By the time she come back, you can, basically tell her, hey, look, do what I want, submit, do what I want. And if you submit, then the reward is I'll be present in your life. The punishment is that I'll leave your life. When you're dealing with somebody like that, that's a person that is demonic. That's a person who is demonized. That's a person who needs deliverance. That's a person who has gone into agreement with the enemy. And not only that, that's a person who objectifies you. They don't necessarily see your humanity. They're not a person that's looking at your individuality and appreciating it. They're too busy trying to change you into being who it is they want you to become. And here's what I remember ministering to a couple one time. I was ministering to the guy. I told him, I said, even if your wife became everything you think she would be, you would hate her. You got to understand that what you're looking for is not found in her. Like literally, she has no ability to fill that God-sized void in your heart. But you're gonna keep making her work at it. You're gonna keep making her do it. You're gonna keep making her feel like she's not doing her job as a wife. You're gonna keep doing that till you destroy her or you destroy your relationship. Now, the crazy part about a person like this, and I'm gonna play the video again because we got a lot of people on here, but do me a favor, make sure you like it. Once we get up to 85 likes, I will play that video again for those of you who didn't see it. But the crazy thing about people like that is that I've dated guys like that have tried the punishment thing. It does not work on women like me. And when I say women like me, I'm saying the way that God wired me. It doesn't work on people like me because from a child, and some people can think that is trauma. No, but from a child, I learned how to disconnect myself. Like, if you don't show interest in me, I'm not going to put that much of an investment into you. That's just how I've been wired as a child. And, we can take it back to trauma and stuff like that, because one thing I can say is that my mother, when I was younger, my mother didn't necessarily bond with me the way she should have bonded with me, because I wasn't necessarily the her golden child. My sister was her golden child. So my mother didn't necessarily bond with me that way. But my wiring came into effect when I was a little girl. And when I was a little girl, what I started doing was I wasn't bothered by the fact that my mother had attached to my sister like that. I wasn't so much bothered by it because I felt like I still had my dad, and all our honesty, I was still relatively independent. So I went outside and I did my stuff. So the thing about it is, I came to understand, like, if I'm trying to get your attention, if I'm trying to be close to you, and you have any type of pushback with me, then I'm going to accept that as you don't want me. I'm going to accept that as you don't want that close connection. And I'm going to back off. I'm not going to try to force it. I'm going to leave it alone, because I believe that if I force it, then it's going to become a problematic relationship. I believe that if you're pushing, then 9 times out of 10, that means that, you know what, we're not supposed to have a close relationship. And I'm okay with that. It's okay with believing that at some point, I think I'm going to be close to this person, but God can turn around and say no. So that person can kind of push you back or what have you. And when you feel that push, don't resist the push. You just sit back. If it hurt your feelings, get past the feelings or what have you. So I'm going to play it again. For those of you who did not see the video, again, we're going to talk about romantic first. Then we're going to move over into familial, and then we'll talk about platonic relationships and how they can be demonic. So we're going to go back to TikTok. I'm going to play this video. Give me a second. I would love to find the original, because I'm pretty sure she cut it off to give her commentary on it. This lady in the comment section said, let me show you her comment. Hold up. This makes me giggle. I have ADHD, and if you go no contact, I promise I will forget about you. Honestly, I can say that about me. I've always said, what they call ADHD, I dealt with it because my attention span is like that. So if you go no contact with me, I'm pretty much going to be like, oh, no. All right. Okay. So no, it doesn't show the original. So I'm going to go ahead and play it again. You probably. All right. The power of no contact on women. This is not for the weak-hearted. If you're a guy and you're afraid of losing your princess, do not try this. This is for guys who don't care what happened. Guys, when you apply no contact, what that means is you stop contacting the girl. What you do is you are giving her an ultimatum. You are making her submit. You are making her show her cards immediately. You are telling her, I am not going to take anything else from you. I am only going to accept you accepting my way. That's the power of no contact, guys. You're basically saying, I'm not having it anymore. Either you submit to me or I walk away. That's the power of no contact on women. Okay, so let's break that up. He's talking about how to control a female using a soul tie. Like I said, he said it out loud, but believe it or not, there are guys and ladies out there who actually employ that technique. And I'm going to tell you something, it's effective. It's effective. See, it's easy for us because we don't have a soul tie with this guy. Now, I'm going to tell you, me looking at him, I see a pervert. I see somebody, I see a perv. That's what I see. When I look at him, I see a perv. I see a twisted, nasty, narcissistic, ill type dude. Like, I see somebody that would probably have you at the clinic. I see somebody I see somebody who can't leave home with your daughters, not even with your sons. I see a perv when I see him. I see somebody who's twisted or what have you. But he's talking about the power of creating a soul tie with a woman and then using that soul tie against her. And again, a lot of people don't realize that this is prevalent. This is something that's actually very common. And most of the people who employ this tactic are not conscious about it. They're not necessarily walking around saying out loud that this is what I'm going to do to a person. Normally, they have a system. They have a 1, 2, 3 system in their lives. So typically, what they do every time they get into a relationship, they get in and they get you excited because sometimes they may be excited about you. They get in and they get you all riled up and y'all loving on each other. Mwah, mwah, you're kissing each other. You can't keep your hands off each other. You want to be around each other 24/7. And catch this. In some cases, they can be genuine. In some cases, they can be genuine in their initial affection. Remember, I talked about the on the last video, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about the type of people that come into churches. And I told him, I said, one of the things I have observed, one of the things I believe is that some people, and it's not just churches, but some people have, for lack of a better term, let me see if I can explain it to you. Everybody has their own unique scent. Just follow me on this. Everybody has their own unique scent. This is your natural scent, your identity, what you were created. But every scent, when it's mixed with another scent, it creates a unique scent. I want you to follow me on that, okay? Every scent. So I was born, spiritually speaking, I had my own unique identity, my own scent. When my scent mixed with my parents' scent and all these scent, it created a unique scent. Now, if that scent, if the relationship is good, it created a beautiful scent. If it's toxic, it created a foul stench. Does that make sense? It created a foul stench. Okay. So when I went out here and I got into relationships with guys or what have you, it created its own unique scent. So here's what happens. And just follow me. This is just an example. When I went out and I started dating, I got into a relationship with this guy. If I created a soul tie with him, it created its own unique scent. That scent will follow me all the days of my life if I didn't get delivered from that soul tie. Thankfully, I got delivered. But what it does was that particular scent, what it does was now when me and this guy break up, I still have a piece of him. I still have a piece of him. Right, true. I believe that he's effeminate, definitely. But I will still have a piece of him, so it creates another unique scent. This particular scent is going to attract certain guys that it would not have. I would not have attracted these guys had I never contacted him. Please tell me if I'm making sense. So just my own unique scent alone, or I have the scent of my parents, the scent and of all their issues as well, right? So it's not just I'm coming out, with this innocent, beautiful butterfly scent, this roses and fruit scent. No, when you're born, you have your own unique scent. And so a lot of times there's some deliverance that's needed. When you're not delivered, that scent is going to determine who you attract. That scent is going to determine who you attract. Now, once you attract somebody to you and you mix with that person, it creates another unique scent. So now you got all of this, and now you got all of this comes together. It creates another unique scent. That scent then creates an attraction for other people. So guys that normally would have passed me by are looking at me and they're saying, I want to get to know you. It's just something about you. It's something about you. I don't know what it is, but it creates a unique scent. If I get in a soul tie with them and I form a relationship with them, it creates another unique scent. So by the time it's all over with, said and done, I am this one amazing, unique scent that's attracting certain types of people to me. And if the people that are attracted to me are not good, if they're not godly, then the scent I'm putting out is not godly. If the people that I'm attracting to me is not godly, then what I'm putting out there, even if my conversation is godly, the people that I'm attracting to me are not godly, because that means that there's probably a belief that got lodged up in here. There's something there that's attracting those type of people to me. There's something there, and it's still producing a scent. Even if I go to church and I'm studying the word and I'm praising God, there's still a scent that's going to mix in with my praise. There's still a scent if my trauma is still there. All of these are creating a unique scent. They're creating their own unique scent. It will attract somebody like him. It will attract somebody like him. When he comes in, he's going to create, and hear me when I say this. If I'm full of trauma and soul ties, the set that I release will be foul to God. This guy could come along and be far more toxic than me, which means that his scent will override my scent. Now, once we mix together, it's going to create another unique scent and it's going to be foul, but it's going to be dominated by his scent. I pray I'm making sense to y'all. It's going to be dominated by his scent because he has more demons. His demons outrank mine. So it's going to create a stronger scent. Somebody like this is saying, hey, once you create a soul tie, then you use that soul tie like magic. You use that soul tie to create to basically to move them. You use that soul tie. That person is going to hurt you, traumatize you all the more. They're going to reawaken, like they're gonna do a whole lot of stuff, and then the next thing you know, that relationship is gonna end. Once that relationship ends, you are foul. You got a foul smell, because you're bitter, you're dealing with unforgiveness, you're traumatized, you're broken, and the more you're like that, the more you want a relationship. Because now it's like I need somebody to, because I'm a good person. I need somebody that will see the goodness in me. Nobody has ever really truly given me a chance to show them how good I am. But you haven't given yourself a chance to see how good you are, because you won't be alone. So what would then happen is you'll go out there and that scent will attract somebody else. You go into a church and you sitting there and you like, God, I love you. I honor you. Lord, I give this life to you. I present my body as a living sacrifice. God, I want you. But that foul odor is still there because it takes time for you to be delivered from that scent. Because God has to deliver you from this dude's scent. Then he got to deliver you from all these scents, all the way follow down to the scent of your parents. He got to purify you. He got to take you to that until that beautiful scent of your authenticity arises. And that's a process that can take years for some people. And most people are not willing to wait that long, because when you have all those scents, what you're doing is every time you get in a relationship, catch this, you keep trying to mask the odor. Every time you get into a relationship, you're trying to mask the odor. So if I'm dealing with all of these scents, then I don't like being by myself. I don't like being alone with myself. I don't want to be, I have to deal with my own thoughts. So what am I going to do? I'm going to get a bunch of friends, because I don't want to be alone. I don't want to constantly hear the voices or the thoughts that are going on in my mind. I don't want to hear that. So I need a lot of noise around me. So I'm going to create soul ties with friends. That's going to create a scent. I'm going to create soul ties with toxic family members. That's going to create more of a scent. And then I'm going to utilize those to keep me while I'm waiting for a man to come into my life. And when a man comes into my life, we're going to create another unique scent. By the time it's over with and done with, I will smell like a corpse. All because I didn't understand that God said, I want to deliver you. Not just from him, but I want to deliver you from the person who set the stage for him. And then the person who set the stage for that person. And then the person who set the stage for that person. And then the person who set the stage for that person. Like, I got to deliver you one belief at a time. There are layers and layers of this. It's more than just manifest and go, devil, I bind you in the name of Jesus. I command you to come up and out. It's more than that. No, we got to go through layers and layers. There are beliefs in here that got to come out. And this right here, the conscious has a toilet. You can flush it out. This is why the Bible says casting down imaginations. Imaginations happen in here and in here. When they come in here, they're typically demonic. But casting down imaginations, these are the commercials that demons play when they're in here so they can get in here. Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. If you don't cast it down while it's in here, once it gets here, it has to be cast out. I need y'all to do me a favor, like and share. because some people are going to get healed today. Some people are going to get delivered. Some people are going to start their journey. Going to start your journey. Whatever is not dealt with in here, if it gets into here, you can cast it down. I've already written on his. But anyhow, here, casting down. I can cast it down. Meaning I can speak to the thought. I can sit there and I have a thought come in my mind and it's not a good thought. And I can say, you are a liar. And the truth is not in you. Satan, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. If the thought is about a covenant relationship or something like that, I can cast it down or I can talk to the person. I can get rid of the thought. So what I just did was I denied that spirit access to hear. I denied that spirit access to hear. Now, if I don't cast it down, remember, it can get in by me just leaving it in there. If I don't address it, if I just leave it there and it's just something in the back of my mind, familiarity is going to allow it to finally go in here. But if I can get it out of here, once I've sat up here and I start studying the word and I'm going through deliverance, if I can get it out of here into here, I can flush it. I can flush it. I want to give you an example of a demonic relationship, because a demonic romantic relationship, because I really don't want to spend the entirety of this live talking about romantic relationships. I really want to deal with platonic and familial relationships. So a perfect example of a demonic romantic relationship is Jezebel and Ahab. The last time we talked, I talked about Delilah. Delilah was completely conscious or cognizant. She was aware of the fact that she was being used as a demonic plant. She got in a relationship with Samson, and here comes these Philistines, and they say, "Hey, look, this guy likes you. Jump his bones. Do whatever you got to do, so that we can find out the secret of his strength." Michal, which was Saul's daughter, was completely unaware of it. So one of the things we established on the last one is that there are people who are aware that they're not good and that they're going to do some damage to your life. As a matter of fact, I think about some of the guys in my family that were womanizers. They were aware, even though it wasn't something they rehearsed in their mind. They were aware in many cases, because if they talked about a girl that was relatively innocent, that was sweet, I literally remember hearing some of my relatives say, "Nah, she too innocent, she too nice. I would mess her up." They had a measure of mercy. Like if a girl was a virgin and she was no, I would completely mess her up. I would completely mess her up. I want you to catch this, ladies. I'm going to tell you something that you're probably not aware of. A toxic man can get in a relationship with you and end a relationship with you because you're too good. It's not because he wants you to be bad. It's because in many cases, that's his form of mercy. That's his form of mercy, because he can look at you and say, "I would destroy this girl. I would completely destroy this girl. She too good. She too nice." Now you over there crying and acting up and what have you. But at the end of the day, the reason he's ending that relationship with you in many cases is because he knows that he's out there in the streets. He knows that he's going to do a lot of damage, and he'll go get in a relationship. This is why one of the most asinine things for women to do is to brag about, "He chose me. Don't get mad at me because he ain't want you no more." No, sis, if he chose you, in some cases, believe it or not, he chose you because he thinks that you're crap. He thinks you deserve everything he's going to do. He thinks you deserve it. He believes that you deserve all of the pain he's about to give. He broke it off with her because he didn't think she deserved it. He think, you know what, you too innocent, you too good of a girl. This ain't for you. This lifestyle, this ain't for you. Go find yourself a nice pastor. Go find yourself a nice man of God or what have you, but not me. He will go and he will find a woman that he knows that he's just like, she ain't crap. That's what he believes. She ain't crap. She deserve it. He will choose her, move in with her, maybe even marry her, simply because He believes she deserves everything he's going to dish out. I'm telling you, somebody who came from a family of womanizing men. I watched it. They will choose a female and they'll say she too good. I remember I had this friend that was a virgin, and her family was in the church or what have you. She came, we were close friends, what have you. And I had this cousin, and I almost want to say his name. Nobody knows him or what have you. I think I can say his name. My cousin's name was Ricky. Ricky was handsome guy, what have you. Every time Ricky came over to our house, I had friends that would be like, "You got to hook me up with your cousin." So here comes my friend. She looks at my cousin Ricky. She like, and she real shy. She was just real shy with guys. She wasn't really shy once she got to know you in. But Ricky looked at her and he was like, Ricky would not date her. Ricky played with her mind. Ricky walked over to her, gave her a kiss because he was a little cocky something. But he walked over to her, gave her a kiss and stuff like that one time. And she was like, Ricky was having fun with using the fact that he knew he was handsome. But Ricky wasn't interested in having a relationship. And one of the things he said about her was she was too innocent. He knew he would break her down. He knew he would break her down. She was too innocent. She was too innocent. Now he did find somebody else that she knew, and he felt like she deserved everything he was gonna do. Y'all be over here getting mad and getting hurt when a man walks out of your life. And sometimes what's happening is James 4:7, submit yourself to God, resist the devil, and he'll flee from you. Other times, or even related to that, sometimes that guy just said, "You too good. You too good for me. Nah, you a decent girl, or what have you." I'll tell you this, and I'm gonna move on. That's one of the things that I heard both times I went through a divorce. Both times. Now, I wish they had told me in the beginning, but no, I'm actually thankful because I love the lessons I got from it. But when we were breaking up, both times I heard, "You too good of a woman. You too good of a woman. I don't deserve somebody like you. You're too good of a woman." I remember my first ex. He said, "Go get yourself." I kind of feel like you supposed to be with a pastor or somebody. You're not for somebody like me. I ain't gonna say I agree with the whole pastor thing, but I will say that what he was saying is a man of God. Sometimes you can be with people and they realize you're not for me. You don't match me. You don't match me. Jezebel and Ahab is a different type of relationship. If you don't understand why Ahab got with Jezebel, Ahab was a believer. He was rebellious. He wasn't like Samson, who was just kind of rebellious, but he was kind of like a babe in Christ, deceived. He was just led by his own strength, his own carnality, just in the flesh, right? You can see him as a babe in Christ. He wasn't even like David. David married Saul's daughter. There is nothing in the Bible that says Michal was beautiful. I got a feeling that she wasn't all that good looking. I don't think she was necessarily um, unattractive. I just don't, the Bible doesn't specifically talk about her beauty. So I don't think Michal was beautiful. But David had such an honor for Saul. Saul was the one said, "I'm going to give you my daughter." And it would have been a shame in that time for a man to deny the king's daughter because that was an honor. The king is saying, "I want to make you my son in law." The king is saying, "I want to make you my son in law." And so he married this woman because of her father, what have you. But Saul sent her to be a demonic plant. Remember, I talked about how I said I believe that some people they're like ticking time bombs. They all have sense. So this person, a person who has a unique foul scent, I was talking to a friend of mine. I was talking about how the enemy will roll that person into a church because their scent, when it's mixed with the scent of the leadership in that church, is going to create a reaction in them. So the enemy knows I'm rolling them into a place where they can get delivered. I'm rolling them into a place where they can get healed. I'm rolling them into this place. But the way that this person is set up, this person is one of those people that come into a church and they're really excited initially. They come in and like, oh my goodness, I thank God for you. Because they look at you like a savior. They look at you like, man, I've been praying for somebody like you all my life, God, the bull. And then when they get into the church, the unrealistic expectation, the enemy knows that this person is going to have a strong reaction because they deal highly with rejection. So the enemy knows when they get in there, the pastor has, let's say, 400 members of the church, which means the pastor cannot have a one-on-one personal relationship. So if you want to work with the pastor, if you want to build with the pastor, then you volunteer, you get into stuff like that. Then you got to understand there are other people around, and the pastor can't talk to you every day. But there are people out there, they expect that. Genuinely, they expect that. So when they come into a place, they come in and they like, okay, give me the broom. It was sweet. I'm gonna do this and all that. But in the back of their mind, there's an expectation. In the back of their mind. So whenever they go through something bad, or whenever their feelings go or drop, they feel like the pastor should avail himself or herself to them because I've been doing all of this or what have you. And when the pastor doesn't do it, they become extremely offended. They become extremely offended. And it's being offended is not an issue. The Bible says, be angry, but sin not. They gonna sin. So typically the way that they will respond, and this is where the issue comes in, is their response is they will treat spiritual things the same way they treat carnal things. So they've never and we talked about this hierarchical relationship. They've never had a hierarchical relationship before. Everybody has to go on their level. So when they come in at once they deal with offense, the first thing they do is they begin to devalue the leader in their minds. And then they begin to pay attention. Pay attention to this. They begin to pay attention to who is getting the pastor's attention. Who's he giving attention to? He always give attention to the ones with the big booties. Think folks don't notice that everybody he give attention to got a big booty. It's okay. And I get my Brazilian butt lift. They started handling him the same way they handled Tyrone when Tyrone broke their heart. And so it's only a matter of time before that scent, that reaction, boom, they're like hand grenades. They're going to explode because they're going to keep internalizing that demonic thought that's coming up in here. That's supposed to be cast down, but they let it up in here. And so now the enemy is formulating all these theories in their mind. And it's going to keep formalizing, or it's going to keep being developed until they're going to respond. Boom, boom. I had to leave that. Y'all be acting like y'all don't see what's going on. Y'all don't act like, and it's really not that. The case is you can't come into a church or any relationship and force your way into somebody's life. You can't come in and force your way into somebody's life. Let me give me a second. All right. Sometimes it puts your guys' comments in timeout. I'm gonna check today and see, because a lot of times what that does is if it puts it in timeout, I think it kind of flags my video as well. Okay. So again, another example of a demonic relationship is Jezebel and Ahab. Ahab is conscious of what God told him to do and what God told him not to do. Rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. Remember, I told you what's on the inside of you is going to create a magnetic effect and it's going to attract people to you. So, what if I told you today that when you operate in rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, that you attract witches and warlocks to you by default, because that becomes a magnet for your attraction. What if I told you today that the narcissist came in because you went into idolatry? You knew it was wrong, but you just had a belief in there. This thought that came right up in here that said, God knows my heart. You're not a bad person. You're not out here raping and killing folks. And when you get married, you'll have it together. It's rebellion. Meaning you know that is wrong, but you still do it. You know that is wrong. Sex before marriage is still wrong. It doesn't matter in which style of sex you engage in. Whether you have vaginal sex with the person. And I hate to be raw, but we have to be raw and stop playing with Christianity like folks don't got vaginas and penises. But whether you have vaginal sex, because a lot of Christians are deceived into believing that they're legalistic when it comes to sex. They think that as long as the guy didn't penetrate me, it doesn't count as sex. It doesn't count. So if I put my hand in his drawers and help him reach the end, that's still sex. If it's hand to or to hand to the private organs, what was that? If it's hand to genitals, if it's hand to genitals, it's sex. If it's oral, it's sex. If it's anal, it's sex. It's still sex. If it's on the phone and you're touching yourself and he's touching himself, it's still sex. If you bumping and crying, grinding with your clothes on, it's still sex. It's still an illegal act. It's illegal. And everything that is illegal is followed by bondage. Who needed to hear that? Everything that's illegal. If I go out here, walk up to my neighbor, take a gun and put it to their back and say, give me all your chewing gum. That's illegal. While it's stupid. And they say, well, I don't have any chewing gum. Check your purse. Because, I'm out here in these streets and stuff like that. And I'm tired of walking around without chewing gum. Give me chewing gum. And she says, okay, let me go in the house and let me just go get my chewing gum. It's illegal. What is that going to be followed up by? She going to go in the house. She going to say, call 911. Don't question me. Call 911. Tell the police I'm being robbed. She going to come out and give me that piece of chewing gum. So while I'm in a driveway chewing like Mr. Ed, the police going to pull up. Bondage. Spiritually speaking, it's still the same thing. When you do something illegal as a Christian and you know it's illegal, it's followed by clink, bondage. Demons are the police officers of the spirit in many cases. They're the guards. They're going to put you in the prison. In spiritual prison. They're going to come. And one of the forms of bondage is called a soul tie. An ungodly soul tie is called, can anybody guess what an ungodly soul tie is called? Anybody guess what an ungodly soul tie is called? I'm going to give you a second. What is an ungodly soul tie called? Because I need y'all to wake up. We got to come out of the deception. Because like I said, we just watched this video and this guy's telling you how he's telling guys. And you want to know what these guys are doing? They're guys that are literally listening to him. Y'all almost got it. It's bondage, it's sin, it's shackles, bondage, prison, unequally yoked. You almost had it. That's it. It's called a yoke. It's called a yoke. An ungodly soul tie. A soul tie is supposed to be, it's like soft tissue. A soul tie is supposed to be flexible. So when I get married, I don't put my husband in prison. I don't say you can't go play basketball with the boys. I don't say you can't find other women attractive. Because that's natural. Just don't be disrespectful about it. Just don't be disrespectful. A soul tie, when it hardens, when it's exposed to the prince of the power of the air, it becomes a yoke. That's what it is. Once somebody gets you in an ungodly soul tie, they will use that soul tie to control you. Once they get you in an ungodly soul tie, they will use that soul tie to control you. Then you start dealing with demonic people like this who's perverted, who starts saying, you know what, I'm going to go no contact. Whenever she don't give me what I want, I'm going to go no contact. Anytime I don't get what I want. And soul ties can last for years without your knowledge. They have to be confronted and they have to be eradicated. They have to be dismantled. They can go on for years. Because what happens is you get used to not being being with the person, but that scent is still there. It's still there. You still pull them up on social media from time to time. You still say some of the things they used to say. You be like, dang, I sound like Tyrone when I said that. You still do some of the things. You still got some of the dreams. The dreams that were formulated around Tyrone. Back and forth. When you get in a relationship with a person, this is your person. Once you get in a relationship and that person gets into your heart, there are this circle I draw. There are dreams that form around that person. The circle is going to represent dreams. There are dreams that form around that person. We're going to have kids. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Now, most of these are dreams that you already had, but now you have a face to put to the father of your kids or the mother of your kids. Now you got a face. And then you also begin to formulate more dreams around that person. When the person leaves, the dreams are still there, but the person is gone. And this is what sabotage does. It keeps you from getting in a relationship because now the next man that comes in your life does not have the flexibility of creating a dream with you. I am telling you the secrets of the demonic, but sometimes you don't know it, that you don't understand that what you're getting right now is completely spiritual. I am breaking down the spirit realm for you. I am showing you how the devil, and this is effective on women. It's also effective on men, but it's really effective on women. The guy is no longer there, but the dreams you had before him are still there, and the dreams you formed with him are still there. So now, what you're waiting on, every time you get a man in your life, you keep trying to force him into this bubble. Every time you keep trying to force him into that bubble. I got good dreams. I always wanted to own a house in Fiji. No, that's what you and Tyrone talked about. Before you got in a relationship with Tyrone, you weren't thinking about no house in Fiji. You weren't thinking about a house in Fiji. That's why when a person goes out of your life, you have to do an enema on your life. Because that scent of that person has to go, but you also have to go beyond that person. You got to keep going through all these layers and levels of deliverance to get all those scents about you. That way, when you get into another relationship, you won't engage with people who are ungodly, and you won't stay long enough for their scent to get in your clothes. You'll understand that when I'm talking to a guy, if I start talking to a guy, my thought is not he's my husband. That's not my thought. My first initial thought is not this is potentially my husband. This is the man of God. We're going to have babies together. That's not my thought. My thought is, okay, it seems cool. I have to control my imaginations. So while going back to the drawing board, but while I'm engaging him in here, he wants to get in here. There are thoughts that are going to try to arise in here. He could be your husband. Y'all could probably be getting married. No, I'm going to cast them down. They got to stay in here. I can't let them here. Because once they get up in here, now I begin to form a soul tie with him, not based on who he is or what God said, but what I believe. So now I'm trying to force it to work. Because I've already planned out our children. I've already planned out our trips. I mean, we already got, look, we done took like 7 trips. I was in Paris with the guy last week, right? In the head. I was in Paris with him, and we were, we booked a room in the middle of town or what have you. That's not me for guys. I'm just throwing out an example. We booked a room in the middle of town. And I say that's not me because really I'm introverted. So I'm probably more like, let's go into the mountains. Let's go somewhere that's kind of on the outskirts of town and we can go into town. But let's say I formulate this idea in my mind. Paris. We're in town. We're in the city center, if they have one there. We're, in the heart of the city, not too far from the Eiffel Tower. We're there and we're just enjoying life. We're laughing every morning we get up. That's so not me because I don't even get up in the morning. But every morning we get up We get dressed and we run out there. We walk around. We have dinner. We come back and we do our daily naps. And while we were doing our daily naps, we have our bump and grind sessions or what have you. Everything is just fun. It's just lovely. That thought, what it's gonna do is, if I'm thinking like that, I'm literally building. Okay, can I get a favor real quick before I go? Because I know we got to go over to platonic and familiar real quick. I don't know about guys. I know how women think. I know how women think. I want you to tell me, and I want you to be honest with me. Have you ever had a thought like that about a guy and you kept revisiting that thought and you kept building onto that thought? I want y'all to be honest. I want yes or no. I want to show you that you build, and what you build has value because you're putting your time into it. You keep adding on to that thought. It becomes a thought that you revisit time and time again. You lay down and you're back in Paris. You're back where you left off at. But this time, we went to a coffee shop. This time, we stopped at a coffee shop. And you know what? We had a heroic moment. We had a heroic moment in a coffee shop. Somebody walked in and he was ready to rob the place. And you know what? My boo thing. Now, when you're in your 40s, you're probably not going to fantasize about that. When you're in your 20s, he slapped the dude in the throat, made him drop his gun. And he was so calm about it. He was just like, pow. You keep building onto that thought. And this is where your value is going, because anything you put time and effort into, anything you put time into is going to have value attached to it. It's not easy to let that go because you've invested in the thought. Most of the time, it's not that you're breaking up with the guy, it's the thoughts that you put a lot of time into. That's what hurts, is knowing that that's not going to come true. I'm not going to see him throat slap a dude in a Paris coffee shop. And we're not going to go home after talking to the Paris cops. And I find out, I didn't even know he could speak French. And then he started speaking French to the cops. And I'm looking at him like, he's like, it's a lot you don't know about me. And I'm like, ooh. And then we go home and we seal the deal. I know how it works. I'm a female. I'm a female. We go home and we seal the deal. I'm like, don't come in this bedroom talking English to me, dude. Talk French. Speak French. We not. Come on, speak French. Speak French. Then you're going to go back tomorrow and revisit that thought again. Then you're going to add something on to it. And then something on to it. And then something on to it. Remember I told you guys that there was a lady, my dad said, a church he was going to at one time. The lady said that God told her that a man in that church was her husband. Problem is, that man was married. She's been going to that church 10 years. Said that God told her 10 years ago. Sitting there waiting. And I told my dad, she waited on that man's wife to die. I said, that woman, she's so demon possessed. Can you imagine? This woman has been building 10 years of fantasies. These are the type of cray folk that when the guy finally fully rejects them, they act like you've been dating for years, because they really have been dating you in their head for years. Come here, Jimbo. Jimbo, just listen to me. Jimbo, I'm sorry. I know. Jimbo, come on, please. And you're like, dude, like I just literally told you I'm married. I get it. I shouldn't have touched you. I'm sorry, Jimbo. Let's go back to being friends. You just showed me we can't be friends. You got something else in your mind. Come on, Jimbo. Come on, please. No. Jimbo, please. It was a mistake. I didn't. Jimbo. And you sitting there like the reaction doesn't match the level of relationship that we have. Literally, I just see you at church. I really don't know you. Why are you reacting like that? Like we've been in a relationship for the last 15 to 20 years and we got babies together. Why? Because you do, in her mind. In her head, she done had so many fantasies about you. In her mind, she done fantasized about you so long that she's created a one-sided soul tie. And not even with you, but her imagination of who you are Talking to my brothers. Her imagination of who you are. And you trying to get away and you trying to figure out why is she reacting like this. Okay, Jimbo, I'm sorry. I'll get castrated. I'm sorry, wrong dude. Jimbo, I'm sorry. I promise I won't do it again. I should have never touched you like that. I am so sorry, okay? Can we go back to being friends? And Jimbo's like, no. You literally just showed me that you are attracted to me. I'm married. Why would I be your friend? Jimbo, come on. That's the same sister that would try to put Jimbo in jail or try to put a bullet in Jimbo. Same sister. He come home from a date with his wife. She out in the driveway, or she out there parked behind a road, parked on the side of the road, hiding behind a rose bush. Come out with a gun. Eyes sitting up there, eyeliner smeared. It didn't have to end like this, Jimbo. It didn't have to end like this. And you say she 3 shades of crazy. That lady had 10 years to build on thoughts, and she did that every day for 10 years. Every day for 10 years. Every day. 10 years. Now she come out of the rose bush talking about something. I mean, got pricked up by the thorns and stuff. Ow! And you like, sorry. She come out of the rose bush like, it didn't have to end like this, Jimbo. I loved you. I've loved you for a long time. We were gonna have babies together. Now my biological clock is. What took you so long? And then we'll look at the wife and you kept Jimbo from me. They like, I ain't did nothing but meet and marry the dude. Was y'all dating? No, I've never dated him. That's the definition of crazy. I'm trying to show you why you don't go and pick somebody out and start dating them in your head. You don't do that. Because you're going to keep building on that. You don't do that even when you're dating somebody. Don't build a fantasy around that person. Because that fantasy is going to become invaluable to you. It's going to become amazing. Especially with females. You don't get in a relationship. You done had 2 dates with the guy, and now you've already picked out your children's names. Tell me I'm lying, because you know you're guilty of it. You done already picked out his names. I told you, God wired me to feel and to experience, but God wired me a lot like a guy. Sis, you didn't date it to do, and I say that because I remember being in junior high and fussing at my friends for being crazy over these dudes. Like, dude is he broke up with me. I remember one of my friends. Who? Lord forgive me. Y'all, listen. I had this one friend. I told you I had a mixed group of friends. And I kid you not, I promise you, I just thought about this. I was just thinking about this white friend I had. I am not going to say her name. But I remember her boyfriend breaking up with her. His name was Jimbo. I just remembered that. Literally just remembered that. That's probably he broke it off with her because he said he spent a lot of money on, I don't remember if it was a Christmas gift or a birthday gift. He felt like he had spent a lot of money on her, and when it was her turn, she didn't really. I think she bought him a necktie. He was mad about that. He was like, I put all that effort in, and she broke down over Jimbo. Oh my goodness, I had to counsel her over Jimbo, and I was like, it's not that deep. And I remember, no, he was black, he was white. I remember when, like years after that, she would always thank me. She was like, you know what I love about you? You helped me when I was going through it with Jimbo. I literally just remembered that this dude's name was Jimbo. Sis, if you're listening, I promise you, I was not thinking about that. Okay. All right. All right. Ahab and Jezebel. Example of a demonic relationship. Ahab went into rebellion, which is what most Christians are guilty of. Ahab went into rebellion. It was political on his part. It was just his attempt because he was king of Israel and he decided that, hey, why am I going to do all this stuff like that God's telling me to do, and all these nations around us, they're flourishing. He looks over at these other nations, and this is where we get in trouble when we go to looking at the world. The Bible tells us not to desire their dainties. Don't get up there. Don't covet their stuff because it gets you in trouble. That's what he does. He's looking over, checking out the other nations. Then he see the women in the other nations. They are what they call free is really bound. They free to have their things out and all that. And you got these women that's got a different complexion. They exotic, and Ahab just like, mm-mm-mm. He decides because of fear and ambition to create a demonic alliance with the uh, king of Phoenicia. The king of Phoenicia's name was Ithbal. He was named after the demon that he worshipped, Baal. His name was Ithbal. He was named, he decided to create an allegiance with him. The problem was the Phoenician army and government appeared by the world to be more powerful, more affluent than that of Israel's. And so, in cases like that, when you reached out to them and said, hey, we want to make an agreement, you automatically had to take the lower position. Like you had to be the wife, you had to be the bottom dude, right? So, your assignment in that moment was, okay, you got to do with this king. He gets to make all the rules, he gets to say all the stuff. Your assignment in that moment is to create, to do what they told. So the king of Israel basically says, okay, you know what? And this is something that nations used to do to prove that, they were actually one. The first thing that they would do is they would begin to mingle, which God told the Israelites not to intermingle with believers. They weren't supposed to marry with Gentile nations. As God said, if you do it, they're going to turn your heart from me. God warned. We've seen Solomon fall into this trap. We've seen many men of God fall into this trap, and what have you. God warned. And it's no different when God said that to us. He said, don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. They're going to turn your heart from me. And that's exactly what happens. So here comes Ahab. He marries Jezebel, gets into this relationship, and it's all about politics. But because her daddy is like the big man, Ahab has to submit. So he got to give the daughter what she wants out of fear that she may call daddy. She may, well, not necessarily call daddy, but she gonna sit up and get on a camel or a donkey, or she'll send a servant back to tell daddy what Ahab did. So Ahab decided to follow Jezebel's lead. It's a demonic relationship. And what happened when she got into position? She began to kill off God's prophets. She began to kill off God's prophets. She instituted Baal worship, and Ahab sat there. These are the relationships that we see commonly between the narcissist and the empath. The empath represents the Ahab. The narcissist cannot and will not be in a relationship with you unless you worship them. You got to make an idol out of them. There is no such thing as a relationship, if you find it's not fine-tuned yet, with a narcissist that's strong where sex is not involved. So if you're on here saying I was always attracted to narcissists, they attracted to you because of the scent. You have a generational scent of idolatry on you. Your family makes idols out of people. You have a history of making an idol out of a person. How do I know? God told you to do one thing, and then he told the enemy told you to do another. Who did you obey? God said, present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. God told us not to fornicate. You did not obey God. You obeyed the other. You obeyed the enemy. So by default, you made the enemy your Lord, because your Lord is who you serve. Consequently, you legalize the narcissist in your life. That's why you can't be the victim. That's why I refuse to be the victim. I got delivered because I took accountability. You legalize the narcissist in your life. When you sat there, first step to your legalization process is God says, don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. You disobeyed God there. Next step to your legalization process is now you got to present your body. Who are you going to present it for? You took your body, you laid it down on that bed or in the back seat of that car, on the hood of that car, on the kitchen table, dining room table, wherever. You laid your body down and you gave yourself as an offering. You gave yourself as an offering. The beautiful and not so pretty part about a deity is whatever deity you give an offering to, they have the ability to accept or reject an offering. So that deity you gave your body to had fun with your body, kept having fun with your body, and you thought that a deity had accepted your offering, but he didn't, because he walked out of your life. He took a piece of your mind, though. He walked out of your life. Jezebel and Ahab is what we see most commonly with Christian relationships. Is people who are impatient. Most relationships that are ungodly are centered around rebellion, which means you know better. You know better, but you choose to do the wrong thing because the Bible says be anxious for nothing. You're anxious. You want to be married because you think marriage is going to be the solution to your problems. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news. I've been married before. It really ain't. It really ain't. You got to get healed and be made whole outside of a marriage. So we're going to go ahead and we'll move on. I had another one I wanted to talk about. What was the relationship? Whose relationship was that just dangling in my head a few minutes ago? That was another example of demonic relationships. But we'll clear it up there and we'll probably move on to that if I come back around to it. You said I was in a low place. I love it. And that's the time. That's the valley. You never date in a valley. Everything you meet in a valley is going to be a wild animal. You never date in the valley. But that's the time when you really want the relationship. Because when you're in a low place, guess what your friends do? Everybody kind of get out the way. Nobody really wants to deal with you, especially if you live in a low place. You know what happened? So at that time, you want people to listen. At that time, you want people to draw near. But that's usually the time when you need to draw near to God. That's usually the time when you need to draw nearer to God. Okay, so let's talk about familial relationships. Then we'll move over into platonic. Familial relationships, demonic familial relationships. And I made sure I jotted down an example. Whose name did I jot down? Familial. Remember, we got three types of love. There's four. There's agape. So that's God's kind of love. That's unconditional love. There's romantic, which is eros. There is the love of a friend, which is philia. Then the love of family, which is storge. We're going to deal with storge right now. Every form of love can be perverted, except God's love for you. But every form of love can be perverted. It can be twisted or what have you. So when you're dealing with familial, when you're dealing with not familial, but platonic, and did I write? Okay, when you're dealing with platonic, you got David and Jonathan. I'm going to surprise y'all with that one. David and Jonathan. For Psalms 41:9. Let's turn there. Psalms 41:9. I did not jot down the scripture. I jot down, but I didn't put down the wording. Psalms 41:9. All right. Now we know the scripture that says that David and Jonathan's souls were knit. I'm going to give you a surprise because a lot of people don't realize this. What if I told you that it is possible to form a godly connection with somebody, but that connection can be for a moment? It is for a reason. It is not a permanent connection. Thank you, Brother Darrell. God bless you. It is not a permanent connection. And one of the biggest mistakes that we make is sometimes we confuse them. We think that just because somebody's nice and they're loving and they're kind, that this is going to be a person that is going to be in our lives. So we formulate beliefs and we formulate all of these things around that person. We set the stage for that person to be a permanent part of our lives when it was never meant to be permanent. And so whenever you set the time for, or you set the stage for somebody to become a permanent part of your life when they're only supposed to be temporary, you set the stage for that relationship to become demonic. So it literally, there are relationships that start off as godly, but they end demonically. How many of you have been in relationships like that? They started off, you know, it was God at first, but at some point it became demonic. It started off as God at first, but it ended up being demonic. That's because it was only for a season. And really, I can't even say a season because season usually has the word time affiliated with it. But it wasn't necessarily for a season, it was for a reason. It wasn't necessarily for a season, it was for a reason, which means that there was a purpose. Jonathan's thing was to basically be a protector and be to make some impartations, get David familiar with being a king, get him acclimated with royalty. But that relationship, believe it or not, actually did turn demonic. A lot of times we think that Jonathan died as a loyal friend. But there is something, and this is just something can be that can set the stage for a theological debate. But Psalm 41:9, this is something that David says. Psalm 41:9. Yeah, my own familiar friend in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, has lifted up his heel against me. Okay, let's read that English Standard Version. Even my close friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me. There are no relationships affiliated with David in the Bible besides Jonathan. Now, like I said, this can open theological debate because it could be possible he's talking about somebody else. Maybe there's a relationship that wasn't mentioned in the Bible, but theologians believe that he's literally talking about Jonathan. He's literally talking about Jonathan because just like Michal, she had some of her daddy in her, and that relationship was demonically centered. Jonathan's relationship with David's relationship with Jonathan eventually expired. David's relationship with Jonathan eventually expired. Jonathan's loyalty was going to be to his daddy, and that needs to be understood. When you're going after an unbeliever, their relationship they're going to be loyal to their father, the devil. I don't care how many times you talk about God and how you believe God. Ultimately, their loyalty is to the devil. Ultimately, their loyalty is to the devil. So when it comes time in the end, because they're always in every relationship, there are crossroads that you come to. You have to decide, and when you're in the middle of those crossroads, typically when you're offended, typically when something like there's a shift in the relationship, like the person is pushing you back or drawing you closer, you're always at a crossroads. Crossroads is basically a point that you come to in every relationship that's going to change the dynamic of that relationship because you have to make a decision. That's a crossroads. Every relationship you get in, there's going to be a crossroads that you come to. So somebody that is distant from me, that person may come to a crossroads at some point. We may come to a crossroads where we may start getting ready to walk close together. And in that point, that person has to count the cost. So do I. We have to count the cost of what it means to walk close with somebody like that. When you are working with somebody, or you let's say even serving somebody. One of the things I have Esther Prep University. One of the young ladies in there, she works really hard. Like she works diligently beside me or what have you. But that's one of the things that she had to, and she'll tell you she had to count the cost of that because sometimes when you walk close with people, the warfare that hit them will hit you. You have to count the cost. You have to make a decision as to whether or not. So, okay, think of it this way. If I'm married to a man, his decisions, I don't care if he say this is my business, it's not, because his decisions are going to affect me. At the end of the day, his decisions are going to affect me. If the man is 650 pounds, his decision to keep eating like that is going to affect me because I got to take him to the doctor. I got to constantly check his pulse. I got to do all of this stuff. I got to turn around and now I got to apply the medicine. I got to be CPR if something happened. Everything that happens is going to affect you. So when the people that you form a close soul tie with, their decisions are going to affect you. So again, we got David and Jonathan. That relationship ultimately turned demonic. And a lot of times, one of the things we really haven't been taught is how to have different types of relationships. We have to learn how to have close relationships with people. So understand that some of them are seasonal. We got to learn different levels of different, because what we do is most of us is no different than when I told you guys, some time ago when I went to eat, when I started eating at people's houses that, when I went to eat with my ex at these people's houses, go to people's houses that they consider rich folk or what have you. And I kept eating everything with the same spoon. And my ex was like, "You embarrassing me. You ate the soup with the ice cream spoon." Or you ate the ice cream with the soup spoon. I don't know. But it's basically the same. You use the same process for every relationship, and you cannot do that. It's a form of sabotage. All relationships don't look the same. They don't feel the same. And if you never learn it, and honestly, most people haven't. Honestly, I can say that. The majority, I would dare to say 90% of people on the face of this planet has never learned how to have dimensional relationships, all these different relationships. There are different types of relationships. And you got to respond to them all differently. That's why we talk about a lot unrealistic expectations. Because unrealistic expectations will make you feel like your pastor's supposed to be your best friend. And you'll get in there and get offended because he didn't answer your text fast enough or she didn't answer your text fast enough. You'll get in there and get offended, not realizing that's ungodly. But there are some relationships that you're going to come in contact with that are seasonal. Some of them are, I will say, and I'm going to make up a word on you, reasonable. That means it's only one purpose. That's it. It's only for one purpose. What was it? I just had a thought trying to come up. You ever had a thought? Okay. What was that thought that was trying to come up? Okay. Old Testament law. Um, an example of a relationship built on purpose. I call it reasonable. But an example of a relationship like that was if I was Old Testament, if I was a woman born in the Old Testament times, and I had been married and my husband died and we didn't have children, then his brother, typically the oldest brother, would have to come and marry me. Now, his relationship with me is supposed to be purposed on me having a child for my deceased husband. This is Old Testament. It's in the book of Deuteronomy, I think. But could be it. I don't know. Well, just look it up. My relationship with him would be centered around us having a baby to be the heir so that this man that's in the ground, his life, his name doesn't die with him. That's the example of living eternally is through your children. I mean, we live eternally, of course, but that's another example. Your name is to the men, your name is actually supposed to stay on the surface of this earth. Your name is supposed to stay above ground. Your name should not go in the ground. Your name's supposed to go generation to generation, and it's supposed to remain a good name generation to generation. This is why the enemy perverts a lot of guys and gets them to get in relationships, have babies, and run off and leave those children. Because the enemy is leaving their name so he can attach what he wants to their name. But if I had if I didn't have children with the deceased man, his brother, it didn't matter what I felt about him. I could be sitting there looking at the brother like, Lord, look at the dude. Look at him. That ain't for me, God. I want, but I would have to go. And you know what? There's still literally countries in this world today that still abide by that. I told you guys I was married to a guy from Cameroon. They still had that belief in his family. I remember one of his cousins that saw himself as a brother came to me and he was like, if your husband die, you will be my wife. I was like, no, I won't. Wait, and he was saying this something like he was like, yes, if he die, you will be my wife. Nah, nay, it ain't happening. Like for real. You ain't gonna I ain't gonna just but that's Old Testament law. Old Testament law, I would have had to marry this guy's brother. We wouldn't have a formal ceremony, but we would just have traditional, the agreement. And honestly, what would happen is he just come in my room one night. The whole purpose of him coming in my room is so that we can have a son for his dead brother. We could have a son. And once I popped out a little boy, that little boy would be considered the son of the deceased child, of the deceased brother. Now, that's a reasonable relationship. Every child we had thereafter would be considered his child, but the first son would be considered his. As he pours arsenic, I'm trying to listen, because he said he said that more than once. He said he would do this right here with it. If he dies, you become my wife. But we ain't wishing that, and no, I'm not. I don't know. I don't live in Old Testament, bro. You ain't. So don't be formulating those thoughts in your head, because it is what it is. I'm saying that so that you understand. Old Testament law dictated that I would have to have. That's a reasonable relationship. It's all for a reason. Now that same brother probably already had a wife. That same brother can probably marry multiple women. So that means that after I have a child with him, I could become of no effect. Another good example, Hagar, her relationship to Abram was all about her having a baby with Abram. I mean, his name was Abram at the time, but it wasn't Abraham yet. It was still Abram. Her relationship with him was centered around her having a baby with him to give away. She's already a slave. She's already, now she has to be a concubine because her mistress doesn't trust God. And she said, and next thing you know, this girl go up in there and she has her first sexual encounter with the man of God. And you know what? Sister girl got a little, listen, Sister girl got a little, she got a little sprung. We won't talk about this about Hagar, but Sister girl got a little sprung because Sarah said, soon as she discovered that she was pregnant, she hated me. She despised me in her eyes. I'm like, no, he put that goodie on her. I'm sorry. Sister girl got a little sprung. And she had to sit there and clean up behind you knowing that you were the wife. Not only that, knowing that when that baby came out of her womb, you were going to take that baby out of her hands and raise the child like it was yours. And the only time she was going to get the baby was to breastfeed. And then you're going to put the responsibility on her, but you were going to be calling it your child. Calling it your child. I said on the last one that, and then I got to move from here. But I said on the last one that, what's his name? Ishmael was 14. No, he was at least 14 when he was put out. He was 14, 13 or 14 years old when she gave birth to Isaac. So he could have been anywhere between 17, between 14 and 19, but really they estimate about 17 and 19 when they were put out. So this was not a kid. This was not a kid. All right. Point is, platonic. Some of the friends that come into your life, some of the people that you form friendships with, the relationships are demonic. They are time wasters. Some people that come into your life, the only goal is to waste your time. Some people are God sent people, but the time expired. When the time came for you to let them go, you didn't let them go. God sent you the signs, God sent you the warnings, but you didn't let them go. You didn't let them go. What you should have did was went and prayed. Because I can understand sometimes we can think that, I think this is demonic. I think it's the enemy attacking us. No, when a person is constantly doing stuff that shows you they're in agreement with the enemy, you have to pray about it. You have to go to God and say, God, I literally did this with a friend of mine. Me and this girl were friends for 5 years. I started going to prayer. I was like, God, I'm getting frustrated with this girl. And I kept telling God what I felt. And he said, don't tell me, tell her. I never forget that. He said, don't tell me, tell her. I was like, kind of hoping you got involved. And he was like, no, you faith without works is dead. So I had a conversation with her. I said, you're not my friend. I've been your friend, but you haven't been mine. I said, I literally cannot count how many times you've been there for me. I can think, like on one hand, just a couple of fingers I can put up to say you literally, like our relationship is one-sided. This is what happens. A relationship can become demonic if you put the wrong tags on it, the wrong label on it. Yeah, he does. It's getting dark. So He just heard a dog barking or what have you. He made me feel bad. He made me feel like the worst parent in the world, pet parent in the world. Makes me feel like the worst pet parent in the world sometimes. Made me want to get off of here and go take my baby out. But when you put the wrong label, that what I had with her should have remained. It should have been nothing but mentorship. And if I had said mentorship, that meant that would have been money attached to that. She would have had to make a sacrifice on one end. But it became what should be a mentorship will become a one-sided friendship. All relationships should be balanced. Like there should be an equal pour. As a matter of fact, they're not even an equal pour because if you have greater, you can't pour equally. I'm trying to say a good way to say this. Okay, perfect. If I'm married to a guy, which I would never marry a guy that said 50-50 on bills. Honestly, I just think that's weird or what have you. But if I was silly enough to agree to something like that, if we did 50-50 on bills, that would be unfair if he made way more money than me. Because at the end, he has more money. Like it's hurting. I think of a friendship that I had this girl. And I think my marriage kind of helped to set the stage for her marriage to be, I can't even say destroyed because she was still married when I was going through divorce. But it set the stage for some fights in her marriage. Because I don't know if she's still married to this guy or not. But I remember her husband said to her, 50-50. She had 3 kids when she married him. He said, I'm not paying for daycare. I'll help you out with the one. When he met her, she was pregnant with one. He was like, I'll help you out with that one. But the other 2, their daddies need to pay for daycare. Or you need to pay for the daycare, this, that, this, and the other. So he literally said 50-50 on bills. She worked at Walmart. He worked at FedEx. He made more than double what she made. So 50 on bills created an extreme imbalance. She began to despise him at some point because she literally had to borrow money from him just to get the bill because he made enough money. He paid his half of the bills and he's still balling. He living life like she paid half on the bills and she would have to borrow money from him. And he would say, when I'm gonna get my money back. That's how some friendships look. Is basically you're literally giving more. So don't think that relationships are equal because if we are friends, if I'm giving you more revelation and wisdom, you have to balance that. But you have to value what I'm giving, not to the point where you say, well, let me try to make it even. Friendships end when you try to make them even. Relationships, marriages end when you try to equalize them out. You don't do that right there. You become partners. But if I'm giving more and you're taking, like I said, I was friends with the girls 5 years, and I can genuinely say she really just got 5 years of free coaching every single day. That's all it was. 5 years of free coaching. That's the reason why a lot of times people, when they try to get up on pastors and stuff, that's what we see. Leaders, that's what we see. Is that sometimes people want years and years of coaching and they want to give it a wrong label so they can get it. They want to call you a friend when really they just want advice. That's a demonic relationship. I don't care how you cut it up, it's demonic. Because what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to honor the person. Your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. You don't want to give a gift. You don't want to sow a seed. You don't want to do anything for the person. You just want to come and call yourself a friend. That way the person can constantly keep pouring wisdom, knowledge, and understanding into you every single day. Every time you have a thought. And you wonder why the person gets frustrated. You wonder why the person gets frustrated. Because you're like, we never fought. I don't know why she's mad. Because you're using her. You're taking. It's demonic. You're wasting her time. I don't like those type of relationships because it's just you take, but you never give in return. People like that can be very demanding. They always need more time. They need more. And the minute you tell them no, offense, they get offended. I just need somebody to talk to. I'm busy. I just feel like you just ain't. I'm busy. Okay, so I tell you what, equalize that. Send me a cash app. I just don't feel like I should have to pay a friend. I'm not your friend. We have to learn how to have different types of relationships and stop trying to make everybody our buddy so we can use them. And that's what gets me, is because people like that wonder why they ain't blessed. It's because you took somebody that's pouring into you and you tried to equalize the relationship. You tried to bring them down to the level of friend, but you ain't giving nothing in return. You just take it. That's all you're doing is, I need more. More. More of your time, more of your effort, more of your energy. What you gonna do for me? Then you end up getting used by men, and you be the first one come running up to me. Girl, these guys that just keep taking from me. You do the same thing when it comes to women. You take, but you don't give. I'm gonna give you something because that's a demonic relationship. What could be godly could become demonic if you don't handle it. If you mismanage it, it could become demonic. If you mismanage a relationship, you mismanage a connection, it can become demonic. And if it becomes demonic, God will deliver the people from you. He will deliver them. So equalize it. Every time you feel like you need something, cash app it. Stop taking. Stop taking, guys. I say that because a lot of times people have that, and you can't get around offending them. It's like either you serve their ideology or they're offended. There's no middle ground. There's no other way. Either you serve their ideology and let them use you up, let them waste all of your time, or they walk away offended. And that can be very frustrating. Thank you, Sister Jamie. God bless you. That can be very frustrating because you already know I gotta offend this person. Like, this is not gonna end well. This is not gonna end well. Even in Esther Pratt, I have people that come in, wrong expectation. And it can be really frustrating for me when I see it because I know how that's going to end. I know it's not going to end well. I know it's not going to end well because I literally have an ultimatum sitting in front of me. And that ultimatum says either be the type of mentor I want you to be, which means I need to call you, tell you about my problems. I'm going to get started, which don't mean I don't have any coaching calls that come with mine, but I'm still going to require a coaching call. You know how many people I've had do that? And that's annoying. Like, your package does not come with that. Get a higher package. But they think the minute they're having an emotional breakdown that you're supposed to avail yourself to them. That's that bomb that get you rolled in. The enemy knew that. Girl, just get the starter package. You don't need more than that. Then they get into a place where they need somebody to talk to. Your package doesn't allow for that. But I just feel like if you're my mentor, you should care about my mental health. No. I can only feed you to the level of your hunger. It's demonic. It's demonic. So we were talking about platonic. We were talking about platonic, and we talked about David and Jonathan, and then there's Job. We're gonna go. I need to move off of there because I want to hurry up and close this out. There's Job. Give me a second. Let me open that back up. Job had those type of relationships. We're gonna look at Job 19:19. Job 19:19. Give me a second. Oh, good. Okay. All righty. Job 19:19. Alrighty, It reads, all my inward friends abhorred me, and they whom I loved are turned against me. Job is sitting here detailing, and let's read that in English Standard. Job is detailing his grief. You guys know what happened to Job. He lost his children. He lost his cattle. He lost a lot of his possessions. Like God lifted the hedge of protection that he had around him, and he let Satan attack him because God was proving to Satan that, hey, he won't curse me. Job's wife told him to curse God and die. And then here comes his friends, and they start basically accusing him of wrongdoing. Thank you, sister. Thank you, brother Rashawn. God bless you. Thank you. They start accusing him of wrongdoing. And so, English Standard Version, Job 19:19. All my intimate friends abhor me. That means they hate me, and those whom I have loved have turned against me. You know, one of the things that I'm very careful about with people is that sometimes people can get close to you, but they'll have a belief about you. And I always tell people the most dangerous people that you can have in your life are people who place a period where God has placed a comma, which means I may have an issue that you notice, but there's a comma there. That means that God is not done working on me. But when a person makes it up in their mind, that's how you are, that's how you're going to always be, they begin to treat you like that. And they can be relatively dangerous. Thank you, Sister Olivia. God bless you. They can be relatively dangerous because those people have already made up their minds about you. And this is the case with Job. Job goes through this attack, and there's a huge possibility, huge likelihood that the whole time where he was blessed, his friends had a bunch of negative thoughts about him. Jealousy. They were sitting up thinking, God blessed him, but I wonder if his blessing is real. I wonder if he's doing something dirty, what have you. I kind of believe this and I kind of believe that. Just to give you a little bit of revelation, I don't want to turn this into a wealth talk, but there's a mindset. Wealth is not money coming in. There's a mindset that attracts wealth. I hope that made sense. Because sometimes we think that people get the money and then their minds start changing, their accents start changing, they start acting a certain way. And that's not always the case. Most of the time, your mind is going to change. And then that mindset, the new mindset, is going to attract wealth to you. That's why God said, be thou transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's when you have a change in mind, when your mind changes, your reality changes. And so that mindset or your new heart, your new mindset will attract a lot of money. But get this, everybody who has that mindset is going to probably attract money, which means that if I'm around broke folk, they don't have that mindset. If I have a mindset that attracts wealth to me and my friends are struggling, they don't have that mindset, which also means they can't relate to me, which also means that some of the stuff that I say and do is going to be above their understanding, which is going to make me look a little bit weird or crazy. That means that you're not going to always understand my movement if I'm sitting on millions. If God bless me, or if I'm going to say when in the name of Jesus, not even when, because I believe that I believe that God is not a God of time. It's just you walking into that. But God wants that mindset. I've gotten all the beliefs and the things that I need to have in my heart, and they're there. And money is attracted to all of those thoughts. If I'm hanging around you and you're making $20,000 or $30,000 a year, doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it does mean we have two different mindsets, which means that I'm going to do things differently, which is why I said this to a friend one day. I said, that's why the movie Bats is so stupid. Movies like that, they give a false sense of, a lot of people, I wouldn't even say in a black community. I would say a lot of times people who have because in the black community, you have people who have high class, you have low class. You have different classes, and classes has nothing to do with how you're classified by community. It's how you think that causes you to fall into that class and be able to relate to people on that level, which also attracts the money and everything that comes into your life. Does that make sense? I be wanting to make sense, but my thoughts are all over the place. It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. So that movie is silly because it capitalizes on the belief that many people have in the Black, Latino, and white community who have low grade thinking, low level thinking, meaning they're not interested in knowledge, revelation, or understanding. They're just interested in culture and fitting in. They're not trying to go out here and learn. They're not trying to get delivered. Everybody just trying in low level thinking. People who have low level thinking want to be wealthy too. They want, but they don't want to use their wealth to change the world. They think about parties. They think about cars. They think about grills and all of that stuff. They think about that kind of stuff. They will squander their wealth because they're low level thinking, which means they're immature. It's low level thinking. If you are friends with somebody who has low level thinking and you think on a higher plane than that person, then the things that you do are going to seem weird, crazy, foolish, and silly to that person. It's going to seem silly to that person. So I can imagine that the things that Job did, his friends kept it in. They just didn't understand. They didn't understand it. That man out there, he didn't kiss that camel on his snout. Job out there with the camel. Who's your daddy? Who's your daddy? You're such a cute little boy. His friend's like, ugh. Does that mean that Job is doing something bad? No, Job may have a greater understanding than his friends because he's had more exposure. Wealth has given him more exposure to information, and information gave him more exposure to wealth. It's a continuum. It's a continuum. His friends are not going to understand. I'm telling you why. Sometimes I know I gotta say stuff, but sometimes I know when you say it, it can sound offensive. But you can't be wired to care because you gotta get God's people free. That's the reason why rich people won't hang around broke folk. It has nothing to do with a broke person not having the same amount of money. It has everything to do with a mindset of belief. Because when you're dealing with somebody who's broke, in a lot of cases, there's going to be a lower level of understanding. And people who have low level understanding are typically very loud. You know why? Being loud is not a minority, it's not a black or a Latino thing. There are loud white people. People are typically loud when their voices have been muzzled. It's trauma. It's trauma. When you're raised in a household where your mama constantly yelling at you, you'll become loud too. And it becomes natural for you to speak loud when it's not necessary. I was doing it. Occasionally, I still have to catch myself. You become loud. So, a rich person who, a lot of, I was going to say black, and I don't know why, forgive me. I met a lot of people. If you have not gotten the understanding, a rich person does care about what people think. See, the only people that are getting offended with this type of conversation are people that's going to remain broke because you don't like to hear the truth. You keep thinking about how it should be. It shouldn't be like that. It's the way that it is. Their money is linked to their name. So they have to care. Somebody who has nothing to lose, be they white, black, Latino, it doesn't matter, will do things that's embarrassing. Thank you, Miss Lees. God bless you. I don't know who he think he's talking to, because girl, I will come up from this table. And if you know you called wealth, you can't respond. Because that does affect you. You got a big deal on the table. Even though your flesh want to get up and show her that, you know what, I would always say, I will throat punch you and drag you by your Adam's apple. Even though your flesh is talking, you have to be cognizant of the fact that you got deals on the table. You got things you're trying to do. You got things you're trying to do in this life. She ain't got nothing. She has nothing to lose. She don't mind being a viral video on YouTube, being drugged across the highway, while onlookers pull their car over and be like, taking their phones out and stuff. She don't mind that. She doesn't mind. You have to care. Job's friends, they've been looking at Job for a while. And I can pretty much hear him now. Who he think he is? They couldn't say much of anything, but when he found himself in a heap of trouble, they came running out. See, let me tell you what I think your problem is. Everything that was in their heart came bubbling to the top because they felt like you now on my level for me to tell you. So I pay attention to folks how they talk to you when you're in a low place. People who looked up to you, people who esteemed you, when you get into a low place, pay attention to how they talk to you. That's how they thought from the beginning. All right, so last one we're going to talk about. I want to touch on some that I didn't necessarily give a title to because I didn't necessarily know how to label these because they don't fit under familial, they don't fit under platonic, and they don't fit under eros. Um, but I will say they're more spiritual or almost like business relationships. They can be demonic. King Xerxes and Haman. Haman rose to power. That was demonic. Satan is always trying to get somebody in position. He's always trying to get somebody in power that can affect a great deal of people. He's always coming after God's people. That's the reason why, to those of you who identify yourselves as empath, like I told you before, you're a prophet or prophetic person, Satan likes to get Jezebel around you. That's the reason why Jezebels go into organizations and churches and they always try to get close to the pastor. Because whoever controls the pastor can control the whole congregation. Whoever controls the leader, not just the pastor, I'm thinking about job. Whoever controls the leader controls everybody. If they can contaminate and pervert the leader, they can contaminate and pervert everybody. Because then when that leader gets up, they're going to pour out of their contamination. Okay. King Xerxes and Haman. Haman gets into a position of power, sees all these people bowing before him, and he's like, yo, this is good. I like this. Then he sees Mordecai refusing to bow. He's like, who's this kid? We need him dead. That's a demonic relationship. Thankfully, God put Esther in position. And then somebody mentioned David and Saul. That's another one of those type of relationships. David and Saul. David is placed in position by God, but Saul is in position, and Saul uses his position. Now, first and foremost, if you don't know the story with Saul, it was never God's will for Saul to get in position in the first place. The people of Israel demanded a king when God wanted to be their king. So Saul gets into position. But when Saul gets into position, Saul disobeys God or what have you. So God takes the kingdom away from him, but he still is able to remain in his position as king for a while. He ends up unwittingly and unknowingly training his replacement. And when he starts getting wind of it, when he starts becoming more cognizant of the fact that David was likely going to rule or reign as king, and he probably found out about David being anointed as king, he decides to try to kill David, to try to take his life. All right, so we got to move over here lastly into familial relationships. Familial relationships, they can be demonic. Many of you were raised in a house by demonic parents. Many of you were raised by Jezebelic mothers or Jezebelic fathers. Some of you had your parents missing in your life. All of this is demonic. And one of the things, terms I like to say, and I always say for me, myself, I can say that I was raised by demons. And when I say raised by demons, I'm not saying that my parents were demons, because they weren't. My parents were amazing. I give honor to my parents, but I'm saying my parents needed deliverance. And what that means is that some of the stuff that was in my parents, when your parents are full, when your parents have demons, their demons are going to control them or manipulate them and put all types of things and have them doing things to you that they should not have done. Exact case in point, when I actually have at the lie written down for one of them, but case in point, I have her under familiar, as a matter of fact. Case in point, and I've shared this story before. The time when my mother, we moved into this apartment. My mom and dad were still married at the time. We moved into this apartment, and the windows were tarred down. The window to my bedroom was tarred down, and we moved into this apartment. My mother was working, my dad was working, and some of the neighborhood boys. So me and my brother and my sister, we would always be at home, what have you. By this time, I was like 12, 13 years old. I think I was 13. But, we'd always be at home or what have you, without my parents, because my parents would be at work. I'm a new girl in the apartment. So, of course, the little boys, I'm their age, they decide, hey, we like you. And the little boys, they come popping out or what have you. They trying to befriend my brother. They're like, hey, who your sister? What have you? And my brother, he kind of makes it clear he's cool, what have you. So the boys start knocking on my bedroom window. They would knock on the living room window too if I was in the living room, what have you. And the lady that was over that place reached out to my mother and told my mother that there'd be boys at my window. And I told my mom, I said, yeah, but I don't control that. Like, I didn't ask them to come. They come, they knock on my window. Half of the time I don't come there. Or they knock on the living room window. I may go to the living room window and I'll laugh or what have you, but I didn't go outside. Because sometimes it'd be 2, 3 boys out there talking about, hey, what's your name? You got a boyfriend? I just thought it was funny. I was a little girl. I just thought it was funny or what have you. But not gonna go there. Long story short, it didn't do anything. So the lady decided to lie on me. She decided to lie. She decided to tell my mother that I had lit up my bedroom window and let those boys in through my window. That was a complete and utter lie. Complete and utter lie. So my mother comes home for her lunch break one day, and she's ready to beat the brakes off me. And I don't get mad, because that's just old South or what have you. My mother was an extension cord woman. We got whoopings with extension cords. We didn't get whoopings with belts. It was rare you got a whooping with a belt. If you did, God bless you. But my mother believed in getting an extension cord, what have you. So long story short, my mom, she come home. Yeah, I heard you let your window up, you let the boys in. I'm trying to tell her it didn't happen. But she's a mother. She's a Southern mother. She doesn't listen. In her mind, it happened because another grown up said it happened. And so it was even disrespectful to even imply that another grown up was lying. And I'm like, it did not happen. My mom beat the brakes off of me that day. She put her back into that whooping. She beat the brakes off of me. I'm hurt. I'm angry. My mother goes back to work. Mother gets off later that day. Or was it later? I just remember when my dad came home and my mother was like, I'm still reeling, what have you. My mother was like, yeah, I had to whoop her because, such and such said she let the window up in her bedroom and let the boys come in through the window. And my dad was the first one. He was like, that's not true. Remember, her bedroom windows tarred down. And I said, I told you. I'm crying. I told you. She lied on me. I told you. And my mother, because my window was literally tarred down. We lived there 9 years. That was the first place we ever lived for a long time. My mother didn't even have it in her heart to apologize. To say, well, she said, well, she shouldn't have all these boys around the house in the first place. She didn't even have her heart to apologize. But a lot of our parents were full of demons. The presence of pride indicates that there are demons because pride is a guarding spirit. We talked about the conscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious. When there are demons in here, pride, let me show you something. I want to show you some of the guardian spirits. This is not a complete list, but these are just some of the guardian spirits that are going to stand around your soul to keep information out of it. New information. These are guardian spirits: spirit of offense, spirit of pride, spirit of ego, spirit of fear. So when I tell you the truth, I can't get the truth in, because the truth comes from here, and these spirits are going to throw darts at the truth. So if I tell you, okay, I'm going to go there. If I say, sis, if you go into church, that's good, but you're not sowing anything into the church, you're a problem. You coming to eat, but you're not doing anything. You're just coming, you're just taking. You have a mentality to just take. That's the spirit of poverty. Which one of these demons is going to throw a dart? Offense. Offense is going to throw a dart. You're going to get offended. It's going to throw a dart at the truth. I don't see why they need my money. That it takes money to run a church. So you want the pastor to go have a full-time job and to do full-time ministry, and you don't think you should have to do that. You should just show up and take. Ain't that their job? Offense is going to throw a dart at the truth, because I put the truth right here. When I talk to you, I'm hitting you with the truth right here. The truth shall set you free. All that bondage, if the truth get in, can knock all them demons out. Am I making sense to y'all? Am I making sense to y'all? If I get the truth, this is my job as a minister of the gospel, is to put the truth right here. But you have to believe it in. If I get the truth, now, once it gets past offense, it's got to deal with fear. If I get to the pastor, how am I going to pay my bills? You know, I mean, I know how to get my hair done, but I don't be want to look raggedy out in these streets. If I do that, I can't afford this. Fear. These are guarding spirits. Once we get past fear, we got to get past pride and ego. Pride is like this. Pride makes no sense. Pride does this right here. Well, I don't care what nobody say. I know all that. Well, whenever I had money, I could do. Pride has no logic backing it. It just stands there stubborn. Says whatever. Whatever. If somebody can get the truth in here, and you keep going for the truth, and the truth gets full, the truth will clear out your conscience, will clear out the way, and then it will get a license to get up in here and begin to set you free. I am literally giving you spiritual principles, but you got to be able to hear what I'm saying. He who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. I am giving you deliverance principles, how you can get set free. I'm telling you, these are guards. These are guards. All of these are guards. They're guards. I usually have to get past ego to take somebody through deliverance. Put your ego down. Put your pride down. Put it down. Because people be worried about what you think about them. All right, let's move on, guys. Because I'd have been over here over 2 hours, and that was not my intention. That's why I even give a disclaimer in the beginning of this one. Because typically I'll be like, I'm getting here 1 hour, then it goes over. We're going to deal with the last one we were dealing with familial relationships. I think we were on familial. Yeah, we kind of briefly stopped off, talked about King Xerxes and then David and Saul. Theirs was more reasonable, but at the same time, it was seasonal. And Saul began to manifest and throw darts at David. David goes on the run, all that. So we're going to move on from that, and we'll move over into familial, an example of demonic relationships with familial or family, Joseph and his brothers. Joseph and his brothers. Joseph and his brothers. So what does that mean? Here it is. Joseph is a prophet. He's getting all these revelations from God. He's getting all his revelations from God. And he sits back and he makes the mistake of telling, and this is symbolic of our relationship with our brothers in Christ and our sisters in Christ. Sometimes we tell people things that they cannot handle. There are people that are coming to your life, guys, and I want you to understand this. There are people that come into your life, they can handle you on the level that you're on. They literally don't have a problem with you. They're not a danger, and they can be relatively cool when you're on that level, but they do not want you to go higher. This is the very definition of an enemy. An enemy is not somebody who dislikes me. An enemy is a person who tries to oppose my purpose, my assignment. That can be a person who walks closely with me but does not want me to preach the gospel because she loves when we hang out. I immediately think about a cousin of mine. When I was in the world, we hung strong. Like I go get her because she lived in another state. We were strong. We hung out. Man, we were like, peas in a pod. What have you? We hung out, wore our little short. We were just, and I ended up getting married. And before I got married, I was living with the guy. I was a baby in Christ, or what have you. I was in my 20s. But I ended up living with the man I ended up marrying. And she came down and she could not stand the fact that I was in a relationship. She was so used to running the streets with me. She was so used to us going to the club, going to, Mangoes or Rainbow or going to Sears or one of those stores to buy Hoochie Mama outfits. She was so used to us sitting in the shop trying to figure out what we were going to wear. She was so used to us going to hang out with our little boyfriends and stuff. She could not handle the fact that I had transitioned, that I couldn't do that stuff no more. I wasn't going to the club no more. I wasn't hanging out with other guys because I had somebody. She couldn't handle that. So when she came, I went and I picked her up and I brought her to my house, and she was trying to force me into that. I just miss the old you. I just miss you, for real. We used to have some fun. I'll never forget this time. This girl, she came. Now, mind you, again, me and my ex, we were living together. I think we called ourselves engaged. We were engaged. I don't know. Long story short, we were living together. She comes. I had a ex that I've been stopped dealing with the dude, but she used to deal with his cousin. She was still seeing his cousin, and she was like, and I'm gonna call this ex. I'm gonna leave Troy alone. I ain't gonna do Troy or Tyrone. We're gonna call this ex. Um, Canton, because I'm looking at this thing and said Cantor. This picture on my wall says we'll call him Canton. So she says to me, "Hey," somebody said Joe. Yeah, it's Tyrone. But she says to me, "Hey," and we're gonna say she was dating Joe. Joe is Canton's nephew. I mean, your cousin or something. They related, and they pretty much live together. They're in the same house and what have you. Or they're always at the same house. They're always together. She comes to me. She was like, "Hey, can you come and take me and drop me off so I can see Joe?" I said, "You trying to get me killed?" I said, "Girl, you know I used to date Ken. Like, if I go over there," she said, we'll say Tyrone. I said, "Done it." We'll say Tyrone, though. She said, "Tyrone, we'll find out." Now, we're going to say Canton is the ex of mine. And, him and Joe are. She was like, "Yeah." I mean, she said, "You can come hang out. I talked to Canton the other day, and he want to see you. I ain't saying it's cheap, but you can come hang out." I said, "Child, I knew what that was." Y'all, can I break it down to you? Because there's a female on here who needs to hear that. When you have people like that in your life, their season in your life has expired. You have grown beyond them. And a lot of times to get you back in the old season, they will put you in a place where you can be found guilty. That way they have something to hold over your head. See, if I was silly enough To have accepted that, she would have held that over my head. Or she would have let it slip down. Girl, when you remember when Cam kept on you kept telling Cam, and Mike would have been like, Cam, you was with Cam. Oh, I just took her over there to see Joe. But you went over there. He would have been like, you know what? There are some people who always try to tempt you into doing the wrong thing so they can have something to hold over your head. This particular relative, she did do that. She started dropping hints to him about my past life because she didn't have nothing on my present. She said, remember that time you almost slept with that dude, but you said this? And I'm looking at her like, it's like in a panic. She was like, you don't remember that? He was looking like, and I remember when he pulled me to the side, he said, your cousin don't care nothing about you. She was so determined for us to go back to the former life. She wanted the old friend. She wanted that back, that she was willing to sabotage a relationship that I had just to get me back there. She was willing to sabotage it just to get me back there. I could tell you a lot of stuff that girl did, but I won't. But she was willing to sabotage it. I would even say this. My ex even started complaining because we were both working. He was like, when I come home, why is she laying in our bed? I was like, what? She doing what? Some relationships, they go beyond, they expire. And there are some people who are really not there for you. The only reason that they are in your life is because you're there. That means you're at a mindset that they're in. But the minute you begin to rise above that, they will attack your any relationship. Thankfully, my relationship with him was not godly. When I say thankfully, I'm saying that I made my mistakes on that relationship. I made my mistakes in that one, so I didn't have to make it in the right one. At the same time, thankfully, I didn't make the mistake to go to see Candy. I knew better than that. I knew how that was gonna end. I wasn't crazy, and me and her, we argued about that. She bucked like crazy. I don't understand. I ain't asking you to go cheat. Can you at least drop me off? Can you drop me off down the street from his house? I said no, because the minute that's found out that I'm in that neighborhood and it drop out of your mouth or anybody's mouth, I got to answer for that. So, no, ma'am, you ain't got nothing on the table to lose. I do. So, no. I held on to my no. And I was honest with my ex. I said, this girl trying to get me to go to Canton House. And yo, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So, platonic, David and Jonathan. Oh, no, we were on Familial. Joseph and his brothers. You cannot tell your dreams to the wrong people. Joseph, in his immaturity, told his dreams to his brothers. You know, I'm gifted, I'm anointed, just like many of you. I learned a long time ago not to talk about my gifting with my brothers and sisters in Christ or my family. I learned to keep it to myself. I don't talk about it. I don't sit back and say, you know what I just did now? I don't do that. And then somebody mentioned it, Athaliah. Athaliah goes on this killing spree so that she could be queen. She kills off her grandchildren so that she could be queen. She kills off her grandchildren. Some of the most wicked or demonic relationships you'll ever find yourself in are family. Those are the most common ones, and those are the most effective ones because we are taught to, give me a second. We are taught to reverence our family relationships. I was brought up to believe that blood is thicker than water, and that no matter what blood did to you, you needed to stay in that, and you needed to work it out. I was taught to believe that you had to fight, right? Cain and Abel, perfect example, completely demonic, that you need to fight for those relationships. And I sat there for many years of my life. Well, no, I won't even say that. All the way up till I was 15, I believed that. And I always tell people when I turned 15, there was a shift that happened with me. I never forget. There was a shift that took place in my heart. Whereas all of a sudden my mind changed. Like it was, I don't remember when it happened. I just know it happened when I was 15. I just remember my heart literally changed. And my heart changed toward my family. Like there was a major change where I no longer, the cousins I looked up to, I stopped. I stopped looking up to them. And I would say I came into a stage or I came into a point of maturity. I stopped looking up to those cousins, and I'm glad I did. Um, the people in I stopped, man, I stopped because I didn't realize I had become a slave to that ideology about me. I had become a slave. Um, when I was 15, I had a time where all of a sudden I really didn't care to have a relationship with them. I honestly, they were just too toxic. And I think that had one to do with the fact that I had matured or I was maturing, and two, because God blessed me to be around healthier people. I had friends who pretty much had adopted me. So I was going to homes and being around people who were a lot more sound. That you didn't have to call 911 every time you met up, or there wasn't a fight every time they met up. Like my family, when they came together in a gathering, the police would almost always have to be called because there were gossipers up in there. We had some of the worst gossipers. My family, oh my goodness, like literally would come to you and they knew how to finesse information out of you. And they weren't good at getting it. They would get it out of other people, and then I get mad because the other person told them something, then I tell them. And they would always set the stage for a fight, and they would sit on the sidelines and watch the fight and laugh. It was extremely toxic. At the age of 15, I came to realize that those people could be the death of me if I didn't remove myself from it. I came to realize that they weren't people to look up to. I came to realize that they did not care anything about me. I came to realize that. And I became more and more withdrawn from them, but I became more present in the lives of my friends. I became more present in their families. That's the reason why to this day, and I hate to say this, I am not a family minded person. I believe that my family is those who do the will of God. I am not one of those people that is pro fight for your family. I am pro pray for your family. Pray for them, pray for their deliverance. But if they insist on remaining toxic, don't you present yourself to be affected by their toxicity. Because remember, we talked about scents. Whatever scent they got is going to get on you and it's going to mix with yours. And I've had to counsel and coach many, many people who are narcissistic because they are around narcissistic family members. They smell, look, and behave just like narcissists because they will not separate themselves. That's what the word sanctification means. Sanctify means to separate. It means to separate. And I got to a stage in my life where I realized that the most demonic people, the people that can do the most damage to you, are oftentimes family. And if you don't put those boundaries in place, they will. Man, I can tell you stories, just stuff that happened to me this week. Family, family. But they have it in their minds. I can say one thing about family is they are offended at the presence of boundaries. And I'm talking about family who are broken. They don't like the presence of boundaries. The boundaries says to them, you think you're better than us. And that's not what you're communicating. You're saying, I like order. To them, they take it as, what do you mean I can't come live with you? If I'm going through something, I should be able to come live with you. No, you cannot. You're toxic. Everywhere you go, you bring problems. You're not coming into my house with that. You're not coming into my house. You ain't gonna come in. You ain't gonna bring no kids here to destroy my house. Y'all, I'm not gonna be stressed out because of your choices. I'm not gonna do it. Some of y'all, your problem is you feel obligated. You'll be like, they talking about they want to bring Uncle Pete to my house. for me to take care of him because I'm the only one that ain't got kids. But Uncle Pete, he a pervert. He kind of perverted, but they say, he too old and he don't get around that good no more, so you ain't got to worry about it. But I remember waking up in the middle of the night and Uncle Pete being said, girl, you better put Uncle Pete Tail in a nursing home. You better put Uncle Pete Tail in a nursing home and call it a day. Stop letting your family force you to take care of folks who are broken, who gonna bring their toxic scent into your home. Now you gotta sit up here, Uncle Pete up in the house, but dude can barely walk, getting around on that good leg, dragging the other one, and trying to get in your room at nighttime. Uncle Pete, I know that's you outside the door. Get away from my door with your perverted tail. I'm not at your door. Get your little thing, don't even work no more. Go in there, go to bed. It's okay for you to tell them, you take Uncle Pete. Well, you don't let him come stay with you. We're gonna have to put him in a nursing home. Put him in a nursing home. He ain't coming to my house. The Bible says, where peace don't abide, dust your feet. How am I going to dust my feet and walk away from my own home because I didn't let somebody in here who was toxic? Y'all don't want to put Uncle Pete in my house? Because I will put his butt in the wheelchair and go put him out on the corner. And call one of y'all, tell y'all better come pick Uncle Pete up. He gonna be rolling around in my house, and I'm in the bathroom trying to take a shower, and the handle of the door, he up there with that. The door's locked, Uncle Pete. I gotta use the bathroom. It's a whole other bathroom. There's 2 other bathrooms in this house, Uncle Pete. This one's the one closest. You ain't getting in here, Uncle Pete. You do realize I'm your niece. It's nasty. Family. Sometimes the most demonic relationships you can have are with family, and it is your belief that keeps you from getting free because you believe that you're a bad person if you separate yourself from the people who are hurting you. Who am I talking to? I know I wouldn't be talking if I wasn't talking to somebody. You believe that if you separate yourself, family's going to talk about you and you're a bad person. Let them talk. Let them talk. Let them talk. Sometimes God will separate you so you can go get your healing. Let them talk. I had to be okay. I had to get delivered from the fear of my family talking about me. I had to get delivered from the fear of them having those gatherings and talking about me. And I had to be okay with it. Let them talk. They gonna talk. Either way, this is what I learned with my mother. They talked about her when she did everything that they thought she was supposed to do, and they talked about her when she didn't. They gonna talk either way. Let them talk. That was an old country song they used to play when I was working at Walmart. Let's give them something to talk about. Let them talk. But you have to put boundaries in place. And some family members, you have to go no contact, not in the way this man was talking about it. They talk about it on the narcissistic spectrum, how to go no contact with a narcissist. You have to do that with toxic people. You don't do that with people you have a disagreement with, though. This man saw. But you have to go no contact with some family members. And you got to let the other family members talk about you. You got to let them say whatever. And your family shouldn't be like this. And you got to allow them to talk. And you know what? You have to deal. I'm going to say this and I'm going to get ready to close. You have to deal with the holidays of sometimes you not having family because most of your family was toxic. You're not having family to go home to or to hang out with, where you're having to do your holidays alone and see on social media them posting up pictures of them coming together. You have to deal with them having events, family reunions, funerals, and things like that you can't go to because nobody knows the level of toxicity that's in your family. Everybody's going to have something to say. That's family. Pray for them, but show up, be present. That's not true for everybody. Because, see, sometimes people talk about their toxic family, but they don't know the level of toxicity in your family. I can tell you right now, I got family members that's waiting on me to show up. You know why? Because they want to fight you. My family's the type of family, if you do good and you don't live in the slums of their expectations of you, and you put boundaries up, they're waiting to have an event like a funeral for you to have to come around because they're going to get you there. I'm telling you right now, they're going to get you there. I didn't even go to my mother's wake because I knew that I had family members that was going to try to kick some stuff off. I went to her funeral. I got back in my car and I headed back to Georgia. Got there to the funeral. I already had family members that didn't even want to hug me. I'm like, my mother's funeral. Looking at me like this. Because I'm not living in a slum. I'm not the Tiffany that they wanted me to be. Now, if I'd have showed up with tats and everything, talking about something, where y'all mother effers at? They were like, girl, where you been? Girl, I'm just calling. Girl, you got a boyfriend? Mm-hmm. You know me. Thank you, Sister Patty. God bless you. But because I don't live in it, I can't go to a lot of things. It's a lot of things I can't do. And I'm okay with it. I wasn't broken because I couldn't go to my mother's wake. Because I'm like, she's not there. That's just people coming together. And I remember my granddad's wake. They did that to an aunt of mine. Because she had the nerves to go out here and do something with her life. She had the nerves to not be toxic. She had the nerves to want it, and they jumped her at my granddaddy's funeral. At the wake, they jumped. They tried to anyhow. They didn't know auntie still could fight. Saw that auntie at my mother's funeral. She said, "You going to the wake?" I said, "No, ma'am." She said, "Me neither." I said, "Because I already know." Some of the most demonic people you can ever come in contact with are family. And you have to be okay with walking away from them. It's not that you think you better. Lose the fear of what they're going to say because they're going to talk anyway. Sis, I want you to hear me. I'm speaking specifically to you. This is your prayer. This is your answer to your prayer. Walk away. That's it. Walk away. Let God pray for them. Forgive them. Lose the guilt. In the name of Jesus Christ, I release you from the guilt. I release you from the guilt, the expectation, the demonic expectation, the demonic soul ties that your family has with you that makes you have to stay in the slums of their expectations, and you can't walk away and become the greater version of yourself who God designed you to be because you are afraid of what they're going to say. You are afraid of what they're going to do. You are afraid. Be loose now from that expectation. Be loose now from those cords. Be loose now from that witchcraft in the name of Jesus. Be loose now, and don't you ever go back and get bound to that again. Don't you ever go back. Thank you, Sister Rebel. God bless you. Some of y'all should have been sewing on that. Honestly, I'm gonna tell you right now. If this has blessed you in any way, definitely I will post it up because my moderators have been kind of slacking on me lately. Love y'all, but I done had time for me to get some more moderators. I see. Be loosed now from that. Don't get distracted by that. If you don't want to sow, you ain't got to sow. That's just be loose now. Thank you, Sister Keandra. God bless you, sis. Be loose now from that. Because family relationships are Satan's favorite type of demonic relationships because they create this obligation that you are raised in, this culture of obligation, this culture of demonic loyalty that you're raised in. And then you're shown examples of family members who go out and be successful, but they don't have a relationship with the family, and you're told over your life that they think they're better. They don't think they're better in most cases. Thank you, plenty of grace. God bless you. They don't think they're better. The problem is family is mad at them because when you're dealing with people who have low level thinking, the way that they honestly believe that your money belongs to them. You're like, whatever you do, you're supposed to bring them in on it. Even though they'll still sabotage you, they'll do whatever they can. They genuinely believe that your house is their house. If they ain't got nowhere to stay, you're supposed to open your door to them. If they need money, they think that they genuinely believe that they should be able to come into your house and just basically use you. Thank you, Sister Latira. God bless you. They think they should be able to come in your house and take from you whenever they want to take. They think they're supposed to be able to go through your refrigerator. They think you're supposed to let them come into your house and bring your food. I got family members that literally I put a boundary in front of 20 years ago. Them jokers ain't contacted me for 20 years. 20 years. Because I said, you can't bring your boyfriend to my house. And will suddenly pop back up when they need something and get mad when you put that boundary up in front of them and say, I don't know you. You ain't coming here. I don't know you. It's been 20 years. Family or no family, I don't know you. I need y'all to rehearse that. Thank you, Sister Ebony. God bless you. You need to rehearse that. Tell people that. If you ain't heard from them in years, I don't know you. Me cousins, I don't care. I don't know you. I don't know if you're on crack. I don't know what type of lifestyle. I don't know if you're toxic. I don't know none of that stuff about you. So yeah, baby, I'm sorry. You got to go into a shelter. You're not coming here. Pop up 20 years later thinking you. That's the type of people I got in my family. Pop up 20 years. Thank you, Sister Mayoshi. God bless you, sis. Thank you, Trail. God bless you. Pop up 20 years later and think you're supposed to open up the door to them and let them come in and just completely ruin your life, take you through hell. Stop letting family do that to you. There are relationships that were not created by God. And listen, I know that we have the role and the responsibility of promoting the gospel. But sometimes with family, they're so familiar with you, you can't promote it through your mouth. You have to promote it through your life. Go live it out and let God bless you and let them see. When they have ears that are wide enough to hear, you can preach it to them, but still have your boundaries present. Don't never let people make you feel like you have to let them close, that you got to let them in your house, that you got to talk to them on the phone, that you got to stop letting people Jezebel and control you. Thank you, Sister Chantel. God bless you. Stop letting people Jezebel and control you. Because at the end of the day, those same people have the ability. Thank you, Sister Kamiko. God bless you. Those same people have the ability to do right, but they choose to do wrong. And when the time comes for them to reap, they try to avoid reaping season by making you carry the bag or carry the responsibility of their own choices. Thank you, Sister Alaska. God bless you, sis. They try to make you carry the weight of their choices. And you sit there and you go to feeling bad because they start using other family members. Yeah, I talked to such and such. She said you won't let her come live with you. Or he said you won't. I showed up. I sure won't. And I'm not going to discuss that with you. Y'all better get a backbone. That's why family don't call me, because they know I'm not going to sit up on the phone and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. Yeah, I showed it, and that ain't nothing I need to discuss with you. That's not your business. I'm just saying, you can say what you want to say, but at the end of the day, let them come live with you. But let them come live with you. Don't give me no excuses, because we both can do that. And I'm not going to sit here and explain to you because you don't have a share. You don't have a share Thank you, Proverbs 31. God bless you. You don't have a share in my life. I don't owe you nothing but to love you. You don't own a share in my home. Being blood related doesn't give you that ability or that right. We got to talk about that because it's actually prevalent. Sometimes people are scared to talk about it because they don't want to deal. Sometimes even writing books, y'all be so scared to write your books because you were scared. You got to expose the demonic and the dysfunctional thinking of your family. It's okay. Talk about it. It helps you to get free from it. Talk about it. It helps you to get free. You know what I'm doing? I have peace that surpasses all understanding in my life. And I ain't finna give it up for nobody. Thank you, Sister Didi. God bless you. And when the man of God, thank you, Sister Sabrina. God bless you. When people come into my life, not just the man of God, when I have friends, they come into an environment of peace. Every person that comes into my life, I have peace. I'm not sitting up on the phone because I got some toxic living arrangement where I gotta, when they pick up the phone, they're like, hey girl, what you doing? Girl, please. Nobody wants to be your friend when you're full of toxicity because you refuse to draw boundaries. You're full of toxicity, so now every time somebody pick up the phone, it's you on the other end complaining and whining. I did that with my mother. Mother wouldn't put up no boundaries. I put up boundaries around my mother. I told her. She called me, your cousin. I said, God bless you, Mom. If you like it, I love it. I said, Mom, I want to hear about it. Because you let these people come in your house and do that stuff. I just need I understand you need somebody to talk to. You wouldn't need a lot of people to talk to when you let people do that kind of stuff to you because you got constantly keep talking about it. I don't let them do that with me. You know what I do? I let them talk. I let them talk. They can they can toss my name all around in the dirt. Let them talk. Family, people can see you as an object. They'll kill you if you let them. And they will come to your funeral, and like the old folks used to say, they'll cut the food. Meaning they'll clown at your funeral like they actually care. Will come to your funeral and spin around 3 times and fall out on the floor and scream and act like they done passed out and what have you. Act like they trying to jump into the grave with you. Act a fool. They didn't care nothing about you when you was on this side of eternity. And you entertain these people. And you scared to tell them no. I got family members, close family. Well, I'm not saying close, I'm talking about relatives that I grew up close with. They literally don't have anything to do with me because I got boundaries around me. Somebody asked me, do I care? See, I learned to love my peace. Somebody's going to take me out of this side of eternity prematurely just because of their choices? Because they choose to live a toxic life? And when it comes to bite them in the butt, they looking around to find somebody that they can. I'm getting ready to let y'all go. I'm saying that to say, if you really want God to move in your life, if you want to know your purpose, you want to walk in your identity, your authenticity. If you want to be the best version of yourself, the way your soul works out is your authenticity is kept in a safe place. It has to be stored in a safe place. I'm not going to use that. It has to be stored in a safe place until you're safe enough to release it. You will never know who you are when you're surrounded by toxic people because you will always have to be who you've become in order to deal with them. Because you cannot be soft and sweet and loving and kind around toxic people. Because they'll eat you. They'll eat you alive. When you're around toxic people, you live like this. This is how you walk around. You don't see it, but this is how you look in the spirit. Your guards are always up. You're easily offended because when people give you a compliment, you're so used to there being some shade in there somewhere. You walk around just like this. Hey girl, your hair is cute. Thank you. Wash your face like that when somebody say your hair is cute. It should be, oh, thanks. Girl, your hair is cute. Thanks. And you waiting for there to be some shade in there. You get in relationships with guys that you have to be like this with. Everybody you like this with. When God has called you to a life, if you just guard your heart, you wouldn't have to guard your heart. You wouldn't have to guard your sanity. God has called you to a life where you can have people around you that you can put your guard down around because they will cover you. But sometimes you're not going to get that with family. And it needs to be understood. You're not going to get that with family. Athaliah went and killed off all her grandkids just so she could be queen. Didn't realize there was one that had been hidden by the nurse. All throughout the Bible, we see betrayal. Absalom wanted to kill his daddy because he was holding a grudge. And because he saw an opportunity, he used his grudge as an excuse because he wanted to be king. And he knew he wasn't next in line to become king. He figured he was going to kill his dad and he was going to take the kingdom. Throughout the Bible, we see betrayal. Throughout the Bible, we see people who should have put boundaries between them and their family, but they didn't. If I can be honest, a lot of us are taught to be extremely close. In the Black community, we are really taught to hold tight to our family. And that can be good, but it can also be toxic. We were taught to not call the police on Uncle Tyrone when he was touching us. They said the family was going to handle it because they were afraid of the police. That's generational fear that travel. It is now unreasonable. It could be relatively reasonable, but at the end of the day, he need to go to jail. But we were taught, and the reason that belief arose in the Black community, it came all the way back from the 20s and stuff like that. Because please don't think that slaves came out of slavery good men and women. Some of them were twisted and perverted. They were doing bad things. Not all of them. I'm just saying, there were good and bad people. Just like we have good and bad people there were good and bad people. There were bad people that came out of slavery. We need to understand that. Stop romanticizing it. There were bad people that came out. They have been traumatized. They have been perverted. They have been twisted. They've been raped. There were bad people that came out of slavery that did awful things to their daughters, their nieces, and their nephews. They did awful things to them. We need to understand that, y'all. That crap carried on generation to generation. And we were taught, our families were taught not to call the police because they were afraid if you called the police on Uncle Elroy, he was going to get lynched. Because the police were comprised of mostly whites. I'm telling you the history behind the secret. See, I'm over here giving y'all, I'm giving y'all mysteries. That's the history behind the secret keeping. That's the history behind the no snitch rule. It's demonic. The whole snitch rule, no snitches, demonic. It's centered around fear. Perfect love cast out fear. If fear wasn't demonic, it would not have to be cast out. That's the history behind that stuff. It was reasonable at some point. It was a reasonable fear back in the 20s. If Uncle Elroy touched you, for you to tell the family and the family not to call the police, especially in the South. Because the police probably were going to do something evil to Uncle Elroy. But it became generational. And now that we can reasonably say not all cops are killers or wicked or racist, and that needs to be understood. That stench is still in the black community. You hear about Uncle Tyrone, then mess with a niece. Family still talking about don't call the police. We gonna handle them. And they think getting a couple of nephews at the barbecue to beat them up is gonna be sufficient enough. Thank you, Brother Rashawn. God bless you. They think getting a few family members at the barbecue to beat them up is sufficient. It's not. Because now the little girls grow up feeling unprotected. They grow up feeling unprotected. Right. I wouldn't be concerned about his punishment either. He needs to go to jail. He set the stage for that. The whole no snitch. That's the history behind the no snitch rule. And now we have drug dealers in a lot of our communities. Rapists, pedophiles. We hid R. Kelly. Oh, come for me. Hid R. Kelly. Let this pedophile go all this time raping babies just because he was rich. He got cocky with it. That was his undoing. He started collecting folks' children. He got cocky with it. He felt untouchable. And even to this day, there's still people who attack the victims. Go on the victim's profile. You will find people in the comment section. Minds twisted. They've been raised their whole life to blame the victim. Uncle Elroy wouldn't have touched you if you didn't sleep in that little thin t-shirt. Uncle Elroy shouldn't have been coming in my bedroom. A lot of families don't work out because we still a part of these demonic systems. Because we still let toxic family members come around and we tolerate them. If Jesus could say to the church of Thyatira, I have this one problem with you, that you tolerate that woman Jezebel. Jesus has a problem with tolerance, and so should we. You think I would subject my children, if I had them, to my perverted family? The devil is a three-eyed, cockeyed lie. He's a mangy lie. Some of y'all, you were molested, touched on, fondled, and you still put your children around those family members. Oh, I'm coming for you because I know you're there. You still put your kids around those family members because you figured out that you survived it. They will too. You just hoping that your brother, your uncle, or whoever it is has matured out of it or got old enough to that Mr. Winky ain't working no more. I'm gonna tell you something about a pervert. It's a spirit. They be in a wheelchair. They dealing with impotence. Mr. Winky ain't woke up in years. They'll still touch on you. Or is it just the perverts in Mississippi? Because I think it's universal. They be in a wheelchair. Crap ain't worked for years. They still be up there looking at women. It's a spirit. Still looking. Girl passed by. Amen. They heard these things and were cut to the heart. And we tolerate it. Oh, God sent me to deal with you because you expose your children today. And one of the biggest problems that a lot of us have is that our voices are muzzled. That's why we get loud. It's that nobody cared enough to protect us. Talking about protecting your child from a white police officer, but you exposing your child to Uncle Leroy or Uncle Elroy. It's not protection. That's culture. I'm going to close it here. Beware of demonic relationships. If you're in any of them, heal your way out. Die your way out. Pray your way out. Fast your way out, but get out. Put some boundaries around yourself. Let people talk. At the end of the day, I done got to this. I don't know the space in my life. They gonna talk. Ain't nothing I can do about that. Right, dropping off to be raped and stuff like that. Then have the nerves come on TV and act surprised. I can't believe he did that to my baby. My girl, go sit down and slap yourself repeatedly because at the end of the day, you knew he did that to you. I thought he had changed. No, you were so desperate for a babysitter because you were trying to get your hot tail out in the street that you didn't care that would happen to your children. You just wished for the best and left. Left them kids in the house with a perv. Left them in the house with a perv. And you'll do the same thing when a man come around. You'll leave your kids with that man so you can go to work. And then wonder why trauma keeps traveling generation to generation because ain't nobody loving themselves enough to stop it. To say, you know what? Lord God, I give my body, my mind, I give you my soul, my spirit, all that I am belongs to you. I will wait on you to send a man of God. Give me wisdom, knowledge, maturity. Give me the discerning of spirits. God, have your way in my life. Have your way in my life. I will give you all the glory, all the praise, all the honor. Have your way in my life. Heal me of generational trauma. I won't get in a relationship until you tell me you're ready. I won't date anybody that you don't approve. I will do your will, God. I know I've made some mistakes, but you know what, Lord, don't let me carry it on to these children I have. Let me be a blessing to my children. Father, let me be the curse breaker so that my children don't walk in the curse. Let me be an example to them. No, you won't do it because you're too busy trying to get your bills paid. I'll say this, and I gotta go. One of the problems I have with us, women, Black, white, Latino, is that sometimes we're raised looking for people to take care of us. And women who come up, who don't go out here and do anything with their lives, will typically submit themselves or subject themselves part one by one. To purge like this. Thank you, Sister April. Hold on. Thank you, Sister April. God bless you. Okay. The power of no contact on women. This is not for the weak-hearted. If you're a guy and you're afraid of losing your princess, do not try this. This is for guys who don't care what happened. Guys, when you apply no contact, what that means is you stop contacting the girl. What you do is you are giving her an ultimatum. You are making her submit. You are making her show her cards immediately. You are telling her, I am not. I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to sound nasty, but that's a low-thinking maggot. And there are women, some of you on here who would date that joker. Let him create a soul tie with you just because he work at FedEx or wherever he work. I don't know where the man works. Or just because he looks relatively deep. He looks like a maggot to me. He looks diseased. And when I say diseased, it's maybe his mindset because I'm seeing him introvertedly. I'm seeing him from the inside out. I'm not seeing him from the outside. His mouth makes me see his outside, his inside. So many women will get in a relationship with a person like that and then come out and play the victim. Girl, I can't believe he did that to me. After all that, even after the TikTok video, Tiffany, I still gave him a chance. Are you supposed to get a cookie behind that? You didn't love yourself. And when you don't love yourself, you won't love your children. You won't. You will have instinctual love, but you won't have agape. That's God's kind of love. You'll have instinctual. That's the default love that a mother has for her children. You'll have instinctual love. But that doesn't go very far. Because they're going to need more than that to be truly protected. Love covers, means it protects. They're going to need more than that. You won't have it. You will expose your children to people like him. You will ask a joker like that to babysit your children. just to prove to him that you got his back. And when he put you on punishment, like he's telling men to do, you will go and do whatever he wants you to do. And find yourself in a relationship and then play the victim. I have to let the silence be more than deafening. You will turn around and play the victim after he's done with you. You will turn around and cry and whine about what he did to you. When he's telling, he puts it out here right now for the world to know what type of person he is. And I'm going to say this, brothers, there are some female maggots out there as well. Thought about this earlier. I wanted to mention it. There are some women out there, because I've counseled brothers. Women, a female maggot. Can I say this? Ladies, if I told the truth, would y'all get mad at me? Because y'all, if I told the truth, would you be mad? A female maggot can be more dangerous than a male maggot. Because when a man decides he wants to leave, he just walk away. He'll get him somebody else. He'll leave. He'll stalk you or what have you. And when I say stalk, he'll just be on your profile. I'm not talking about high level stalking. Women, when they decide they want to be with somebody else, they don't walk away. When a woman decides that she wants somebody else, but you have benefits to you, she will try to go between both of y'all. She'll have children and tell you that they're yours. And if you get in her way, a woman will have you killed. Two uncles 6 feet deep taught me that. A woman will put a man 6 feet in the ground. That's why I'll tell a man in a minute. I tell women and I tell men. I'll tell a man in a minute, like, my wife cheating. And, I confronted her, we fight. I'll be like, bro, I'm going to tell you something like this. If you got a cheating wife and you know you've been a good man, I'm going to tell you like this. Get up out of there. She dangerous. She dangerous. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to get this one as a freebie to my brothers. Because I feel like I don't talk to y'all enough. I'm going to give you this as a freebie. Brothers, I want you to hear me and I want you to hear my heart. Do not go after a woman just because she's wrapped in pretty skin. Some of the most toxic and dangerous women you'll come in contact with are ones who are narcissistic, who are obsessed with their own reflection. Those be the ones that talk about everybody jealous of them. And it's not the case. It's a fact that they're beautiful. That's a fact. But I'm going to tell you, there is a combination that the devil loves to put together for women, and it creates some of the most dangerous Jezebels you can ever come in contact with. Man can have a Jezebel spirit, female, but I'm talking about women. Women don't walk away. Because when a woman decides she wants you, she don't want nobody else with you, even if she go be with somebody else. Ooh, call me a lie. Woman don't want you with nobody else. She doesn't want another woman to be with you and be happy. A woman will sit there and decide that she want to keep you around. She'll have your babies just to keep you around. Wouldn't even want you. But just to lock you in and use your children as a pawn to control you. Treat your children like crap, but she'll use your children as a pawn to control you. We'll be out here busting it up with all these other dudes. And if you decide, I've had enough, I can't do this no more, she will hurt you. Probably even try to take your life. Oh, DNA, I'm going to tell you, we'll sit there. You find out the child ain't yours. She'll sit there and say, well, you can't walk away because she think you her daddy. Or he thinks you're his daddy. You've all they've ever known. She knew the whole time. Her child was a pawn to hold on to you. When a woman decides that she don't really want to be with you, but she got with you because she believed that you were going to be successful, and she believes that she is better than most women, that she's gorgeous, and so that she's entitled to success, even though she has no real special ability, or if she does, that she's not willing to put in all the effort and the work and go through the process. When she feels like she needs to connect her way to the top, when she goes and she's a power mover, like she always trying to get around powerful people, that's a dangerous sister. Oh Lord, that's a dangerous sister. Because at some point when she realized that you stuck, and guess what, bro? You could be stuck because of her. When she realized that you stuck and you ain't going nowhere, or she starts believing that, and a man come along who making a little bit more money than you, or he appears to be more powerful or moving more than you, she go to busting it up with him and cheating with him. She'll do everything in her power to hold on to you. Will use sex, will use mind games, will use everything in her power, would even go be so dirty as to accuse you of molesting your children. Oh, when she get to that level, she get real dirty. Will do everything in her power to hold on to you. Oh my God, thank you, Jesus. I feel a man on here that's getting healed right now, just listening to this. You got in contact with the wrong one. You messed around with the wrong one. Seriously. Oh man, I feel you. You messed around with the wrong one. She will use her beauty to get what she wants. And while you're married to her or in a relationship with her, she will dog you. She will cheat on you with everything that she can. Any man that looks to be more powerful, she'll come home. She won't let you touch her. She'll dog you out, talk to you any kind of way. When you try to leave, she'll be ready to take your life. She'll try to talk you into staying, do everything in her power to keep you from leaving. Because the reason she doesn't want you to leave is because you are her property. You are her eunuch. Eunuchs don't have penises. She's castrated you. So she don't want to have sex with you. Because she likes it with the other man. Not because he's better, but because she has a belief about him. She likes illegal things. She will go out here and she will cheat on you with this guy repeatedly. Dog you out. And when you try to leave, you have to be careful. Because there's a few things that she's going to do to you. There's somebody on here that you didn't got that trauma. And I pray there's nobody going through it. But hear me when I say this. She'll put you in prison. She will accuse you of touching one of the kids. She'll do everything in her power. She'll accuse you of attacking her. She'll do anything in her power to destroy you for trying to leave her. Oh, that's why I said when a female gets like that, men, ladies, I tell you, run from you got a cheating guy, let him go. But when a female does that, good God. Because we can't handle, women are a weaker vessel. We can't handle having two relationships. We can't. We just can't. We can't handle cheating. We can't. We can't. It's too much for us. Because we're going to love one of the dudes. We're going to be like, man, I want him. Then we ain't going to like the other one. Typically, the one that we ain't going to like is the one that's most familiar to us. She'll either put you in jail or she'll take your life. I know a case where an old friend of mine, her mother did it to her daddy. Sent that man on a run. She never had a relationship with her dad. He went on a run, getting away from her. He went on a run for his life. Like he made sure that there was no way to contact him. When she popped up in his life as an adult, he was very distant. He wanted a relationship with his daughter, but he was afraid of the mama. As soon as they start having a relationship, the mom come to the daughter. You know what? Let me tell you something. I ain't want to tell you what your daddy did to you. Wicked. Wicked. It has to be said. Most, if not all, of the people in hell, and the most, if not all, the people that are going to hell, have been extremely traumatized. They were raped and molested. That has to be understood. That has to be understood. They were victims. Victims grow into villains. if they don't get healed. Okay? Okay. I put it up here anyway. Yeah, you want to sow a seed into it. Sow an angry seed if you want to. Sow a seed because I'm mad at you. Victims grow in the villains. That's why you get healed. And you can never really heal if you don't put boundaries around yourself and solidify those boundaries. You got to enforce them. I put boundaries around myself and I enforce them, and it shocks people. Even in business, I have to put boundaries up in business because a lot of times I deal with traumatized people. I work with traumatized people. They're ordering stuff from me, but they traumatized. And I see it in the way they do business. I see it in the way they do business. They deal with perfection, that's a spirit. They deal with fear, lack of trust. I see it in the way they do business. They make every transaction difficult as hell. You can't even finish a transaction because it's difficult because of what's going on in here. And you got to stop thinking that just because you were traumatized, that legalizes you to traumatize other people. Because what you put out there in the earth is what's going to determine what you reap. Can't go out there and sow seeds of trauma and expect to reap a blessing. You need to hear that. But I got to get off of here. I love y'all. Listen, for those of you who want to be a part of Esther Prep University, I now have it up on TiffanyBuckner.com. I'll post it up and I'm going to get with my... I'm going to get with my people today to find out where we don't have moderators anymore. We have like 5 of them now. They be gone with the wind. Like I said, they got tired of me. Okay. That's it, guys. TiffanyBuckner.com. You want to sow a seed, you can go to TiffanyBuckner.com. If you want to register for Esther Prep University, you can go to TiffanyBuckner.com. Love you guys. I appreciate y'all, and I'm going to go. All right. We'll talk soon. Bye. See, I always be talking longer than I want to, and that's what that issue is. So, but yeah, and he know when I'm leaving, so this is with him. He know my closing statement. Here he comes. Yep. Here we go. All right. Love y'all. Bye. Bye.